Sound test. Sound test. 1, 2, 3. Test, 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 test. Yeah, it's pretty cold. Cool, Alex. Both my guests aren't on yet, but oh well. They'll be here. Testing. Testing. Can't hear me? Oh, ha ha ha. There you go. Aha! Only bad thing about tonight is it's back to work tomorrow. Full week. Had CarryCon 2 days off, had Friday off. Oh. What to do with myself? Whoops. I hit the wrong button. That's awesome, Jay. I'll have to jump this early. Ah, it had to happen, right? Here, let me hit up some announcements for those I've already passed. So, Reaper, Control Lord. You can hear me only yet, because neither of my guests, Anna or Tim, are not on yet. So that's why you can only hear me. Ha ha ha! That would be why. That's alright, I can handle it right now. What's up, Nicholas? Patrick, you're doing better than you're doing better than Thursday, man. Things are hopefully going okay up there in Canada. Whew. Here comes Anna. Hello. Ah, it's okay. I'm cruising along right here. We're doing good.
Okay.
We're doing good here. I'm just
logging into
take your time.
Twitch here. So yeah.
Tim will be on.
Okay.
I can imagine, man. No one likes long days. Yo, Drake, good to see you. Chuck's been like MIA last week. He had a lot going on.
Grandparents.
So Corey. Yeah, grandparents, some other things, and a lot of hey, what's up, Corey? Kevin, right? Rogier. Hey, Mike. So, Mike, our tube clocked again on our ender about halfway through the middle of the guest house 3-day-long print. So, yeah, we'll try and figure out what's going on.
Do you have to start over from scratch? Or do you start
Yeah, you can't, yeah. Just trying to figure out what's going on. There he is. There's uh-oh. Why do you have that up? You have a special... You don't want to see weapons or something?
Oh.
You can leave it up. I don't care.
Well, for work calls, he needs to take it down, and
I guess. Yeah, I guess
you
that's
need to put it up. Yeah.
his job. It's kind of bad to
Work
say,
so
"Hey, look
you
what
don't
I
pay him
have."
Too much.
It's for my son if he uses my computer. I don't.
Yeah, that in the background for school is kind of probably not
Yeah.
the smartest thing to do.
That's but they don't recognize it as such. It's their problem and their fault.
It's always their fault.
How dare they take that weapon wall?
Yes, it is a Sunday night. Back to the toil tomorrow. But that's okay.
I get Toil Plus. Toil Plus.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I now maybe get calls.
Awesome, Corey.
To handle problems. Bummer.
Right, because of the schedule
My
change.
sleep cycle. Yeah, my sleep cycle might get affected.
Ah, well, it's not like you sleep that much
don't know.
anyway.
Anna, did you see my? That's good. Anna, did you see my last email?
Yeah, I think I saw it. I'm just went through it. So let's see here. So I need to. Yep. Yeah, that would be interesting to see the miniatures and stuff. That would be awesome.
Yes.
All subs
yeah.
get. You know what all subs get tonight, Marius? They get bonus tickets for drawings, just like they always do. Uh-oh! Is that Warhammer? What is that?
Woodland Indians tribe.
From where? What brand?
Warlord Games.
What is it?
Warlord Games. They do historicals. It's all
Oh,
historical.
okay, cool.
They do some sci-fi, some fantasy, but
Nice.
these are like the Woodland Indians, French and Indian War. So
Yeah.
They got tomahawks.
It's like it's
gloves,
like
knives. They have muskets, so I'll have to like put a bow in there.
it's like Last of the Mohicans.
Yeah, so I gotta customize some of them. I told my son I broke down and got figures to customize their barbarians. I hate myself and I love myself at the same time.
Once you commit, you're committed. You gotta know that, man.
I know. I have some more barbarians coming too, different tribal types, just to be able to have it.
You're gonna find out now how hard it is to get exactly what you want, and why it took me 2 years to find that stupid chariot. And then
I'm making a chariot.
I know, but it took me 2 years to find that thing. It's tough sometimes to find the right pieces.
You have to learn to sculpture in ZBrush or something, or clay, and then.
Yeah, I'm not that artistic.
They
I can't.
never make the chariots big enough.
Yeah.
They never make the
That
chariots.
chariot's pretty big. I make sticks figures. I mean, that's my level of.
Jay, it's a 2-horse chariot.
What?
That is not a war chariot. That's a 2-horse primitive chariot. You need 4 horses if you're going to be legit.
Oh, all right. Well,
Don't complicate it, Tim.
Ben-Hur, that's a
Just spent
racing
2
chariot.
2 years and he
I don't
found
care.
it.
I have 4 horses. My chariot's going to have 4 horses. Jay.
but it's not gonna have a Build a Master Crafter paint job. It's gonna have a Tim paint job. So it's gonna be like Herbie the Dips.
No, my paint jobs are not that bad. They may not be as good as Bill's, but they're not that bad.
All right.
Plus,
Mike
my
Disney.
horses
Hire
have
Mike
painted.
Disney to do it. Yeah.
These horses came painted like actual real horses,
Okay.
so they're expensive. Spare no price for the Stretton chariot. It's going to have the proper wording.
As long as it's nicer than the one I have now, then she'll upgrade. If not,
brace
then-
for impact.
Tonight, spice up your fighter class. No, we never played chariot racing ever, Patrick, because we didn't have chariots. That's the thing, we didn't have the miniatures. Sword and Fist, yeah, that's part of the book. That's one of the books I have. Minor references here. Hey, good to see you, Clover. Clever Clover. Already got 70 people on a Sunday night. Thank you on an Easter Sunday night. One of my favorite pictures in the Rogues Gallery in the upper right-hand corner, too. The human reincarnated as a lizard man, Phoebus, who was a straight fighter as well. So, and look at this. We're like 4 minutes early. So I'm going to let this run for another minute, and then we'll go in 3 or 4. Oh, I'm glad to see you, man. It's good. It's good. So... got an early jump tonight. Spice up. Yeah, in Discord I said spice, baby. So that, that was kind of bad. Spice, baby. We're gonna crank it up. And we're going to have fun.
I like spicy up the fighter class. I'll be right back.
Go for it. You're good. It's good. Of course he leaves right when we go live. Just kidding.
Yeah,
that's all right. It's Tim.
That's what happens. Yeah.
It's Tim. It's Tim. I'll cut him. Oops. See, you guys came on while I was in the boom. I missed even doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Good evening, everyone. First Gabbin, post Gary Con. So yes, no, we don't have mega stars. We only have us tonight, Anna, myself, and the ever mysterious Tim. So good evening, everyone. Now, hopefully, I'm going to tell you a couple things. Hopefully, I look a hair clearer than I did before. Because I got a nicer I'm tweaking. I'm always, and I also got some tweaks set into XSplit, so I'm hoping for a little bit more of a crisper broadcast now. Just working on some stuff, and it's better to test it here than test it on a Thursday night. So, Scala, thanks, man. Thank you so very much. Starting it off quick. So, fighters. I love fighters. I love fighters, and I did a delving series back 100 episodes ago.
Yeah, I remember those were some of the earlier ones I saw.
They were, and the funny thing about them was, I remember that I think you weren't available for delving into the fighter class, and I remember, if you go back, I think it's Gabbin 42, everyone, and this is pre-Carlos buying into my philosophy of 1.J, and he kind of argued with me the whole show about what I had done, which is kind of funny. It was cool. Carlos is a purist when it comes to 1E, but now it's really cool because I can cite this, and a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about tonight is in this book. And I'm not trying to hawk it, but there it is. There's a lot of the rules that we're going to discuss tonight, and things that I do are in the Horror and the Hools book, so you'll be able to follow along with it. So get a little discussion tonight on the base of all base classes, the fighter. So, Anna, you seem to be not a straight fighter player at all.
Normally, because for the same reason that early days, I think the fighter was the most essential class, but also the most boring class. It didn't have anything more than just a lot of hits. In third edition, it came along, but for me, it was.
Yeah.
I always liked to play supportive characters, but also the fact that was the first edition where I felt fighters actually could do cool things. They had cool features. They could break the rules with stuff. And so I think straight fighters are the ones that have benefit the most from later editions in the game, where they can do cool stuff that hardly any other.
They can do a lot of great things, but the issue is that it still is very basic. And what I'm going to do is, yes. I'm going to do is I'm going to go over some history here and then say what happened and what the net effects were. And the reason, and you say, why are you going to do that? Well, I know I was talking to Mattias via chat, and there's a lot of other people, OSE-based fighters. I'm going to tell you what we observed throughout all the years. And now that I got Tim with me, I know he'll, for the most part, agree with me on a lot of stuff I discuss with fighters. Right, Tim?
Yeah, I think so.
Look at that look.
It's about fighters, so we're going to argue a lot. It's going to be some fighting.
Nah, this is going to be Russell Crowe fighting. Sure.
It's about fighters. We're going to make it real.
Hit something until it stops moving. I see in your post. But fighters are cool because Now, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm going pre-AD&D. Basic, there was fighters, then there were dwarves, but they were like fighters, but they were just called dwarves, right? Did they have more hit die? I think fighters only had die 8 in basic, and then they went to die 10 and 1E. Is that correct? Am I remembering this right? And dwarves had die 10, or maybe they were die 8 as well. I don't remember 100% going back what
kind
in
of
Holmes Basic what they had.
Yeah.
But
yeah, but there was some, yeah, because the demi-humans didn't have any classes. They were, the demi-humans were a class.
Yes.
Meaning elves were a class, and
elves were fighter
class,
mage.
And dwarves were basically fighters, if I remember correctly from those days.
Demi-humans in their place.
Okay, so in OD&D, everyone had D6. I thought in Holmes Basic that they had. Maybe I may be remembering it wrong. So, but we're going to start. We're going to start with this, right? We're going to start here with this player's handbook, and what happened. Demi-humans were all yeah, exactly, Gaetano. So, I met Tim in 80, but pre that, we're playing D&D, and you had all your base classes, and that was it. And what was happening was, I just noticed that my Zoom thing is all. How did I do that? Oh my gosh, guys! And no one said anything to me. He said, "Oh, you're not in the box." It looked awful. There we go.
Well, we're kind of in the box.
Now you're in the box. So, what we noticed was the following. Tim, what do you think I'm going to say here in the old school player's handbook? What did we notice about fighters? What happened? See how smart he is.
What happened?
What happened right off the bat with fighters? He's not that smart.
I don't know.
There weren't any. There were no straight.
I mean, we didn't make fighters.
We did. We didn't make straight fighters. So when we started off, you had rangers, paladins, and a couple. But then let's be realistic here. The multi-class fighter was king back in pre-Earth Arcana. That is where it was. We
chose flexibility over battlefield dominance in one arena. So yes. we chose to be flexible versus dominating in one arena.
Right. See, this is what happened. You had fighters, and they didn't have any specialization. They got 4 weapons. They didn't get multiple attacks. This is pre all that stuff. And so a lot of go ahead.
The more special the other guys got, the bigger a gap formed, and I think that's why weapon specialization came about. Right? Is that where you're going?
Well, yeah, but back in this day, and by the way, so the pictures in the portrait workshop, that's every character that I've done that has a fighter class, and I'm not talking about subclass. I'm talking fighters. I mean, they be multi-class fighters, but every single one of those scrolling through is a fighter. Okay. Gazumba, Hawk, Funkin' Hottie Peak, they're all fighters. So yeah, Bard was the exception, and Bard was like that first prestige class. But there was multi-classing was an option if you were demi-human. So when we started playing and Tim was DMing, he had Fencing, straight mage, Leuven, straight thief. Then I had Hawk, fighter, thief, half elf, Gazumba, fighter, clerk, mage, half elf. Right? That was what I had. I had multi-classers back in the early days, because playing a straight fighter was kind of boring. You could, all right, there was no concept of tank back then, really, when you think about it. There was no one, we want someone really armored up, and it didn't go that direction right off the bat, But there were dual class fighters. I mean, we had dual classing way back in the day. And dual classing is not as difficult as a lot of people think it is. I got to make sure I remove the right thing and don't remove something vital. So the dual class, this is the character of 2 classes must be human. And to become a dual class character, you had to have a score in your main attributes of 15. And your only attribute in fighter, strength. So all you needed was a 15 strength. And then whatever class you were going to go to was a 17 in that stat. So a lot of people were going fighter, 15, and then 17 intelligence for a mage, or a fighter, 15, 17 wisdom for a cleric, and you had you had it done at that point.
You had retirement options when you're done getting beat on.
Yeah, exactly. Now, everyone knows, and it is a joke, we've implemented the Tim dual class rule because Tim came up with one of the first abuses of all time. Go ahead. What did you do? I know it's not an abuse, but it is.
It is not an abuse. It was basically making a fighter who has exceptional strength, and then very shortly thereafter switching to a new career. So you quickly surpass your fighter, and then you have that exceptional strength in your new career, which seems like just smart thinking to me. But
yeah,
some people gotta like complain
min-maxing.
about it.
It's min-maxing.
No, it's not. It's somebody who didn't want to be a fighter.
It is min-maxing.
They didn't want to be a
Utilizing the
fighter.
weaknesses of the system.
But
They didn't want to be a fighter after getting beat up all the time, so they decided to switch to a new livelihood early because they're smart.
Yep.
I don't understand what the problem
That's what
is.
every gamer in the Pathfinder Organized Play Adventures League and Living Greyhawk and stuff. That's what all they do.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's that mentality. It's you using the game system to its max.
So there we go. So I just set up.
You make it sound like that's bad. I don't agree with that.
It's a matter of personal choice and game style. A lot of people will simply think you're an idiot if you don't do it. Not doing it is bad in some circles, and in some circles doing it is bad. So it depends on who you're playing with.
Doesn't sound positive to me.
Well, dart throwing is no good at this point, natural, because there is no specialization. Okay, so we're talking before Unearthed Arcana. Right. There is no weapon specialization. None.
Didn't come until
83. So we're talking between 80 and 82, early 83. There is no weapon specialization. There's no reason to throw darts.
But I don't believe that I did that technique, though, Jay, until later. The dual class finagling we just discussed, I don't believe I did that till much later.
No, it was early on.
No. I remember being in the military, and the first time I used it, I made a character, and I did the very same thing.
You had a character, I remember, that I first played with you. It was first level fighter and like 6th, 7th level cleric or something. And I'm like, what the heck's this? He goes, dude, I'm telling you, I remember it. So it was an NPC.
I have all the sheets. I have not seen that thing.
Okay. All right.
But speaking of specialization, even if it was a kind of a new cool feature, I don't think it's that cool because it doesn't introduce anything new more than just this plus. Meaning, if all you get is like a plus or a minus or something, that to me doesn't add in any cool feature. Meaning, the fighter needs to be able to do something that no other class can do. Like, and you can kind of, even power attack is kind of cool, but it's also just saying that instead of making it harder to hit, I can do more damage. So breaking the rules a bit here and there, I think those are the cool features.
Right. Thank you, Daka. Thank you so very much. So we're doing a $25 gift certificate to CSL, and depending on if we ever hype it up, I may throw in another Reaper one there too. So just note this. Back in the days, the multi-class half-elf or elven fighter and some dwarves were king. Dwarven fighter thieves have always been popular. You couldn't play clerics back then. Dwarves, hells were not allowed to be clerics, but half-elves were. So the half-elf fighter cleric mage like Gazumba is born in this time frame. Now there's elven fighter mage thieves, right? Like Ulrich, your character.
Right.
Because you couldn't play that cleric yet. It was not a allowable thing. Hey, what's up, Enoch?
I think they did explain it away as far as cultural, where if you just didn't elf people who were being spiritual, they just didn't adventure because they were too busy worrying about all the esoteric philosophical things. They weren't like that. They weren't that adventure priest that the humans seem to have. Right? Isn't that why?
Yeah. So we had so let's jump forward to 83. And boy, did that make a lot of changes to fighters. And look at this thing beat up, this Unearthed Arcana. Weapon specialization and double weapon specialization come in. And that's for missile too. You also had some other classes that came into the game. Now, there was a lot of bizarrities in this book, like your Rangers were allowed to get that specialization, but Paladins weren't, and Barbarians didn't get a weapon specialization, and we kind of tweaked that. And then these things fell apart real easily. Look, the binding was
they
so
were bad.
bad,
Binding
so
in them.
bad.
Yeah.
We decided at one point we implemented it where it was just fighters and rangers as it said in the book, and then they got multiple attacks, and then we noticed something else was happening, and that was, and I got, believe it or not, I got my notes from number 42. That a lot of types of fighters were disappearing. When you combine that with this article, and I think this is right around that time, and this is the Roger Moore article, right? Man, I'd love to get him on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Two-fisted fighting, wielding more than one weapon. 82. So this is right before. So this is our first foray into proficiencies outside of just taking weapons. Okay, and you have a two-fist fighting, and we just let people do it. So I got some trivia questions. In the original first edition before this article, what is the penalty for two-fist? It's called two-fisted fighting, which sounds like fists, but it's actually two-weapon fighting. What is the original penalty for fighting two-fisted for everyone? Anyone know?
I think it's in the DMG, right?
Correct, Tim. Now, what is it?
Is it -2, -4?
Correct. No matter what your dexterity was. Wow.
Right.
Yes, cold. -2, -4. Now, here's a tough one. In the DMG, it states, what weapons can you fight in your secondary hand?
Dagger, hammer, axe.
Anyone else want to go for that? Is Tim correct?
They hadn't invented the light weapon concept yet. They hadn't classed them weapon. That was 3rd edition when they did that, I guess. Yeah. So now I realize how much I've forgotten about the early edition.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a little history here.
Oh yeah, yeah. This is flashbacks big time. Yeah.
So here is the answer. You're close. No hammer.
No hammer, really?
Dagger, hand axe only. That's all it says in the DMG.
That makes sense, though. Hammers are really not that wieldy offhand. Actually,
thank you, Samuel.
A better choice.
Yeah. So if you note that.
Uh-oh.
Pulled it out.
Yep,
if you note that, and you note some other things. 1 second here. You have a lot of two-weapon fighting. When this Roger Moore article comes out, takes off. Okay, it really takes off. Now, Casey was complaining about this table, like, oh, between 6 and 15, there's no modifiers. It's not the same, because 3rd edition, there's differences, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's Casey. Casey's, the 3rd edition min-max guy, right? Sorry, Casey, if you're on. I didn't mean to bust your stones like that, but I kind of do. So, but it's fun. It's fun.
Now, he's a min-max guy, but I'm not.
You're getting better. So
fight it to the death.
So you have this two-weapon fighting, and now you have specialization in 1983. Now here comes the major dilemma. Okay, there's dilemmas everywhere. There's no discussion on, can you specialize in that secondary hand? None whatsoever. Combine that with the worst thing that ever happens, one of the worst things in this book, and they say Dark Elves can be player characters, and they get no penalty in either hand. It's in here. So they can fight longsword now.
No, I disagree with that. That's what the rule. I mean, that's what it says.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you meant you disagree with what. Yeah, I disagree too.
With the reality of it.
So what's min-maxing? Min-maxing is mathematically determining what is the best course of action for taking abilities for the best possible combat roles.
Yeah, it's like looking at the game as a mathematical challenge and skip the role play and the themes and that just look at it. Okay, if I take this option, I will be mathematically a little bit more advantage. It will be a more advantage to me. And then simply, that weapon is a little bit better, and doesn't matter if it's thematic or
making choices for the game mechanics reason only.
Yeah, they see the game basically as a game that I'm supposed to win, so I can win more fights if my character's equipped this way or something.
What I'm told is it's so difficult in Living Greyhawk era of 3rd edition 3.5. They had to, whatever, that's fine. But note that what happened here is we started getting only high dex fighters with high strength. So I'm gonna put this in perspective. Give me a fighter with 18/75 strength, +2, +4. Give me, even with 17 dex, we'll say, 0 primary, -2 secondary. Multiple attacks now in your primary hand at 1st level, 3v2. The question is, no one knows if they can specialize in their secondary hand or not. It's not written anywhere. And I don't think Skip Williams ever answered that question at all. So, anywhere. And I got this argument, well, Dark Elves can wield large weapons in either hand. They should be able to specialize in both hands. There goes everything. How do I fight that argument, right? So now we have Dark Elves. Go ahead, Tim.
I would make them specialize in one hand, primary hand and secondary hand.
What's that?
They have to specialize twice.
Well, they were. With plenty of weapons, you can do it. And then you get multiple attacks in both hands. Now you can see where this is going. We have Drizzits running around everywhere. Right.
Well, the problem is that the 2 longswords briefs well, but in reality, it's terrible. It doesn't work.
I know, but it's right in the Arcana by Gary Gygax.
I
understand that. So this is what happened.
You know the D3, the Bible for the Drow. There was no reason they would be using longswords.
I agree 100%.
Especially with their body weight.
I didn't have sense back then to say to you guys, no. So this did not exist yet. All right, no emote.
The super killer that way.
Yeah, there's no emote did not exist yet. Now we're not talking about Cavaliers tonight, but Cavaliers now start fighting two-handed and specialize in both. With Dark Elves, it's going insane. We had a guy with 9 attacks every 2 rounds, 4 then 5, 4 then 5. You can understand where this whole thing's going, and this is 83 to 87, maybe probably 86. And the tanks are gone. No one's playing a tank fighter. No one's playing a 2-weapon, a fighter with 2-handed sword or a fighter with Bardiche anymore. They're gone. Because here's another problem. You get your strength bonus in both hands fully. So you got a 2-weapon fighter, go longsword dagger, and you're getting +2, +4, double specialization, plus your weapon bonus, +2, +4, usually single specialization in your second hand because you don't have enough, and then the weapon bonus of a magical weapon, and you have a crazy amount of damage at this point. And this is what happened in that era between 83 and like 86. It's just the damage curve went like this straight up, and it was a major problem. And fighters, everyone wanted to play a fighter now.
Right, but Cavaliers shouldn't fight two-fisted anyway.
Dark Elves. What are you gonna do? Lecter. Lecter is the ultimate. Yeah, I'm telling you what is happening at this point. Yeah. Oh, it's all been fixed, Cold. Yeah. So it has all been.
And
fixed.
I'm fighting a lot about it because it's about fighters. So I'm arguing a lot because it's about fighters.
Yes.
Fighting.
Thank you very much, everyone. So
just for fun.
Here's what happened. We got rid of multiple attacks for any other class but fighters. So we said paladins, we said rangers, we said barbarians get a limited number of specializations. They get the +1 hit, +2 damage, but they don't get multiple attacks at it because they have other special abilities. Problem number 1 solved. Problem number 2 solved. And I did this. I don't remember when I did this, but I'm thinking it's.
And Jay, I'm going to say I want to back you up totally. Yeah. That totally makes sense because they have other things that are dividing their attention, and a fighter's only job. So they're focused. The fighter is only focused on that one skill. So I agree with you 100%.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, that I think is the interesting. That's a very interesting point. Meaning, how much better should a fighter be compared to a paladin or a ranger in fighting, so to speak. And
it's a good point.
Yeah, and because they have like extra stuff, meaning do they lose a lot of the abilities? And I remember in 3.5 we had all the feats that a fighter could take. The paladins and rangers could take them too. I simply ruled that all these are fighting feats, meaning any class that I simply took away the class prerequisite, meaning if you're strong enough and you know how to use a longsword or whatever the weapon in question was, then you could take the feat. And since fighters had more feat slots, they became more versatile in fighting than paladins and rangers. But if paladin and ranger took all the feats, they will be as good, but they will usually be more narrow. That meaning the ranger will know one weapon or will be as good as with using the bow as a fighter would be, but he will not be able to use everything as good. And a paladin, for instance, will be as good as a fighter, but maybe not in both melee and ranged, for instance.
And I jumped ahead 10 years.
So, but I don't think we had much more common sense rules. We were never so dogmatic in one. If it didn't work, we just toned it down a bit.
Well, that's what we're trying to figure out all this time. We have no fighters that are defensive. We have no fighters that fight with large weapons anymore. What are you going to do about that? We needed to do something, and so number one, I made some executive decisions, and so be it. Got rid of the multiple attacks for any other. They could specialize, but it was only a +1, +2, except for straight fighters. We've never given multi-class fighters that ability, and they still don't get it. So that's out. Number two, no, except for other classes like a duelist, which is a very special circumstance. No weapon specialization in your secondary hand. Period. None. It's gone. So that doesn't mean you can't finesse or do other things, but you can't. That limits a fighter that is specialized that gets to 7th, fighting weapon, longsword, short sword, specialized in longsword, 7 attacks every 2 rounds. I think that's enough. 3
just
then
to
4.
be nitpicky on details and how you would call it. I think I know what you would say is if there was a fighter that lost his primary arm, you would let him eventually get specialized in a
special
secondary
circumstance.
Arm. Right.
That would become his primary arm.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, that would become his primary arm. There's also the multi-class fighter force. Yeah, so there's a lot of options. Now, the multi-class fighter is still around because in our game, multi-classers don't get anything special that's limited to a straight class, and that's how we removed the issue. Like, for example, the fighter thief. Thieves, when the 2nd edition rules came out, you could apply certain percentages of your thieving stats. So a multi-classer can't, but a straight class thief can. So that kind of was another thing. Plus, specialty priests is another thing. You can't really, only very rarely can you multi-class a specialty priest. So, what were you gonna say, Tim?
No, I like that. I like the thief rule. If you're multi-classed, you're dividing your efforts.
Yeah.
So you're choosing by just
Not
the nature of being multi-classed to not focus in one thing. So you're choosing flexibility over expertise. So I like that rule on the thieves.
So
I got to go back and look at Leuven's pickpockets now if I retrofit it.
Yeah, but
It'd be like 200%.
Yeah, it doesn't mean it's so high now. It doesn't even matter for what 18th level. It's immaterial at that point.
Right now, your shield's not even there anymore.
Yeah, I think when we didn't have limitations on multiclass that way because we just saw it as multiclassing, you sacrificing, it takes forever to reach a higher level, so to speak. So multiclass always lagging behind, especially in the early editions when you had to earn full all the hampered in so many other ways. So we didn't hamper them extra, so to speak. We just saw that I also liked multiclassing and versatile characters, so I didn't have a problem. Yeah, so they could specialize, they could do whatever they wanted as long as they earned a level. Then they were treated as whatever. There was no difference.
I'll give you an example of where that what I had to deal with.
Yeah.
Are you ready? Fighter Mage. This happened back in the day. If that Fighter Mage had specialization, then cast Tensor's transformation on himself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I mean, it's done, right? He's
Yeah.
running around with 150 hit points, all the bonuses of that, and it's just with a specialized fighter, it's insane. So that's one example. The tensor spells kind of immediately went into my mind, like, oh my gosh, these fighter mages are going to go go crazy. So and there's a lot of other enhancing spells. So for us, the multi-classers stayed where they are, like and my character Gazumba is only 11, 12, 12 after 40 years. So, they take a long time to go up, and they're special cases, definitely.
Yeah, I remember boosting my monsters significantly, so to speak. So
you had to do that.
Oh yeah. The monsters were lagging behind like crazy. Meaning, what was it like? The early dragons had like 60 hit points or something. That was kind of ridiculous. So I skipped that immediately when I saw it. It was like, no, come on here, my party. They will eat a big red dragon for breakfast. So I kind of boosted it up significantly. So yeah.
So Antiquus is on. A lot of other people who played this note there's something in here that Carlos has it as the old style. I have it. I used it as BW at those hit points, but double the hit points, right? Double the actual damage hit points of it. So, and you guys found that out last Sunday. So for that, and we've always done that too. So post 1983, you have Crazed, Torque Storm, Eleanor Moonchild, which is 92 actually. So this lasted a while. That we have these crazed elven multi-class, I'm sorry, straight class, high strength or whatever from books or from decks of many things or whatever, running around doing 40, 50 points of damage in a round, with so many swings that they're like Cuisinarts. I got to figure out what this just isn't working. We have no one fights. No one's gonna fight with a two-handed sword anymore. What, they only want 2 attacks, right? At 7th level.
The weapon speeds. Yeah, that was an interesting experiment that we used for a while, and then realized that that was maybe it was a bit
right.
Rogues had like thieves had so using daggers were the best weapons ever. So everything else was kind of ridiculous. So yeah,
it got to a point where it was really crazy, and so had to think of something, had to think of a way to do it. And I don't know how many years we've had it in, but when 3rd edition came out, and we didn't go to 3rd edition, but I loved things they did in 3rd edition. I really did. I loved, and we're talking 2000 now, what, 2001, all the way up,
2000,
the 2000s. So I went through that for a decade, I'm going to say, at least, of these massive Cuisinarts running around, straight fighters. Well, that was their only ability. Also, if you go to Arcana, they have these crazed rules. I'm going to give you another example. Someone said it earlier on darts and on daggers. There's nothing in here that says you can't throw two-fisted on those. So I got people throwing 9 darts around now because they're throwing them at both.
You can't throw two-fisted. You can't throw two-fisted.
We stopped it. So so we had people throwing darts in both hands. All right.
Yeah.
Specialized. Yeah. So we just said no, that's gone. But darts. When you're specialized with darts, you can throw 5, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, darts were some, but those are flukes things in the rules that you just have to adjust a bit. If people start abusing it like crazy.
Who was trying to do 9 darts in a round? Wasn't me.
No, but there's some but any rule, meaning it's mathematical combination.
The daggers
so
was
you
the
get
worst.
Like you get like the
all you got to do is you got to try throwing daggers once, throw knives once, and you'll see quickly you can't do it.
Exactly. It's like
This is so. I'm going to use the no just no here for it. Wasn't you? It was the other main abuser in our group, Alan. So what he did was he had an 1876 strength paladin who took that bonus spec, and even though he shouldn't have gotten it back then when we undid it, and throwing dagger, 1876 strength bonus in both hands, throwing the 2 daggers in the secondary and the specialization daggers in the primary.
But throwing it doesn't.
I understand that, but there's no clarifications on rules. Your way, there's no clarifications on rules back then saying you couldn't do it.
No,
there's nowhere it doesn't say you can't throw in both hands. Doesn't say.
That's why you have to kind of use the common sense rule, so to speak.
Note that
the game just
Red flag on the play. Red flag on
Exactly.
the play.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
another issue I come across is that the other issue was multiple arrows, and that was a Cavalier issue more than and we've
Yeah.
decided just
But
archers get 3.
Yeah, in certain
You mean
editions, like
the overpowered Cavalier from the
Yeah.
Dragon magazine?
Yeah. We had to tone some of it back.
Yeah.
So 5V uses Dex for range and strength of melee. Well, yeah, Thunder. I haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah.
Trust me, the evolution's coming, man. I think I
We're
got it
still in
down
the
now.
80s, right?
What's
Jay?
that?
We're still in the 80s.
No, well, so
Wait,
Under Arcana, the abuse really started when the Dark Elf flux came in of player characters. Nienna was Nienna, Lector, couple others were the worst. The worst because they were worse than the archers. The archers were legitimate killers of mages, right? The archer would just target the mage, 200 feet range, do all the damage, boom, 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 boom. And then, but the Dark Elf running up 2 weapons, specialized both hands, it was just disgusting. And something had to change. And eventually, when 3rd edition came around, there was the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So here is the build, starting at, believe it or not, we don't play 3rd, but I use a lot of 3rd edition rules here. So, thanks, Patrick. Use a lot. So what did we do? A lot of this now, from this point on, is going to be in this book. Let me take one quick step back. 2nd edition, this thing's a mess, by the way, this Complete Fighter's Handbook. I'm talking about mine. It's got writing all in it and all, but what do I care? I got an original copy. But there's lines through everything and all. I didn't do it. I don't know when I got this. So there's some cool ideas in here on kits. We don't use kits, but the kit idea is incorporated into what we did for how we do everything now. Kind of was cool. So Tim, did you see this at college? These issues?
no, actually, I had 2 player character drow. One was a witch, and the other one was a archer bounty hunter, which actually I played in the charity game. One of the characters they could choose was one of those. That was it. I did have a Cuisinart. We had a dwarf specialized, and there was the both hands issue that happened. So that did happen, but it was isolated in this one low intelligence, low wisdom dwarf.
With what
they were
dex?
just
17,
he
16?
had high dex, high strength,
Right.
low intelligence, low everything, and they'd kick a door open and throw him in the room.
Exactly.
He's so dumb that when the lightning bolts went off, he just thought that happened when you fought. He didn't realize there were spellcasters doing it. That's how dumb he was.
Right. But he had good saves because of the combos.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, his friends were casting it, but he just didn't realize that they were casting because he was too dumb. But he was too short. I let him use 2 short swords because that fits into the physics of reality.
Right.
I would walk it back with the offhand not being specialized.
Yeah.
At the time, though, he was the only one that was really that way.
Okay.
So
for us, we had multitude.
I'm sorry, I'm looking around. I have a dog that is trying to eat cables under the
no
under the desk here. She is getting a blind dog that is getting stuck under the desk, so I have to save her.
So that's interesting there, Alex. What edition are we talking about? From real life experience, most competitors end up using the second weapon like a shield to deflect. We didn't have that. We, for us, we had the issues. We really did. And with all the weapon proficiencies, you could really, really make some characters that were really nasty. Okay, that was from martial arts in real life. Well, we have that in the game now, kind of, and I'll explain. So we get to 3rd edition, and there's all these feats. And I think, I could be wrong, but Baldur's Gate 2 kind of introduced it to me. Hey, Josh, you back? Are you still driving or what, man? Good to see you. Anna's dealing with
Anna's right there. She's invisible.
She's dealing with a dog issue. See? Yep. There you go.
There we go.
I'm gonna fill my coffee cup.
Go for it.
Yep. So I just had to save her from. Otherwise, she will unplug something.
Awesome.
And I don't want that to happen. Yep.
So Baldur's Gate 2 especially, and Baldur's Gate 1 really started up with, and I know they took a lot of this from that fighter's book, where you got bonuses for armor class, you got bonuses for things, for taking weapon and shield type or two-handed type, and it got me to thinking when 3rd edition came out, and we weren't going to go to 3rd edition. I hated level 2 this, level 2 this, level 3 this. I hated it. I hated that. And I can't.
Why is that?
Oh, it's so awful. I mean, look what Casey brought to me with Garn. He brought me this abomination. It had 6 different classes. I said, no, he's a specialty priest of Kellen and live with it. And he's happy with the character now, right? I hated it. It just drove me insane that you could have 8 different or 6 different classes.
But the way I handled that was that in order to get a class, you have to figure out how your character can train in it. I solved issues like that in game. Just because a player said that I want to play some weird or whatever something, I said there's no one who can teach you. You have to come up with it yourself, meaning it will take forever. So go with the basics.
I have a simple solution for all these complex issues that came up, but I can save it to the end.
Okay. What the no? Well, that's why I have the no just no head.
Yeah.
No. I know exactly what would solve almost all of these.
Yeah.
Crazy fighter things.
So,
but it's a very Jay. It's a very important issue because you can get characters that are completely out of the whatever, and I don't like min-maxing that the game becomes mechanical just and look at numbers or whatever. So,
I admit that I'm glad now that I didn't, because all I hear about Living Grey Elk is if you didn't min-max your character, it wouldn't survive. I mean, that's all I hear in most of these discussions.
Or organized play seems to be that. I only have now. I've only played in one organized play myself, Pathfinder organized play, and I played for like 6-7 years fairly regularly, almost like once a week or so. So I played a couple of hundred sessions in it, and DM maybe 20, and if you play there, because there you're supposed to have a level playing field, which means that rules become rules. They're not like in a home game where you can tweak it the way you like it in the style.
So if I want to do that, I'll just play a board game.
Yeah, but it's hard rules. But if you're supposed to be equal, I can understand that becomes the issue, and that means that every rule will be looked at in order to get a benefit from it. And so it and also the scenarios, adventures are written towards players that will use every bonus they can get, which means that, and I had characters that were not optimized, so I was rarely very effective, but I had a lot of fun. But for a lot of players, that's a habit. So I think organized play fosters that. That's the negative side of organized play. The positive side is that you learn the game really well. You learn all the tricks of tools of the trade, all the weird quirky rules and stuff. So so there is a positive and a negative side to the same thing. So to have min-maxers in players who min-max is perfect because it forces you as a DM to learn the rules. That's the positive, have a min-maxer in your game group player. The negative is that you need to learn the rules, and you will get someone who constantly remind you of all the rules and live in the rule book. And that's the negative side. And whether the negative or the positive overweighs, that depends on your style and the style of the group.
True.
Yeah.
So we get to 3rd edition.
Yeah.
And
yes,
I'm like,
we get to my edition.
Yes, and I'm like
the edition I started.
I'm like, I like what they've done with the feat system. I like it. I liked it in Neverwinter Nights.
Yep.
I liked some of the stuff that was in there. I liked some of the stuff that was in Baldur's Gate 2, the computer game previously. What's up, Aldrin Magnus? I think Icewind Dale was the one I really liked the most.
But that was that the first one that was based on the 3.3 3rd edition?
Neverwinter Nights was.
Oh, okay. No, yeah, that was 3rd edition rules. Yes,
that was 3rd. But Baldur's Gate 2 and Icewind Dale introduced a lot of the kit rules, and which I really liked where the direction it was going. It was going toward the feat system as reformed.
Oh yeah, in feat system, I just love feat system. I want to featify everything. And skip classes and just have feats for everything.
I'm not sure it was 3.5 or 3. It probably was 3.5. So,
but it depends. That might have been early. I'm not sure I played the very first edition of Neverwinter Nights, but the one that was really popular was early third edition.
I actually played a game or two in 3.5 with one of my military buddies.
Yeah. How did you like it?
It was fun. I enjoyed it. If you enjoy people you're with, and it's fun. And so I had a half orc sorcerer. Bam.
Yeah.
Oh
but
boy.
3.5 and third edition was great until you got to high level and the thing took forever to resolve. That was
no risk there.
Yeah, that was so third edition was awesome, but it had some serious flaws when you and the simply thing that it took forever and so the reason I liked Pathfinder was not so much that because it was a more slightly more error prone or errorless version of 3.5, but the difference was not the rule system so much. The difference was I had digital tools to play it with, and that did almost all the difference. When I didn't have to calculate all the things on the NPC, I could just put an effect on it or whatever. That sped it up immensely. So that was a huge change for me to just have digital tools to do all the calculations for me. So it didn't matter much if there were, if an NPC or a character had 5 attacks, because they rolled it and it was quick to implement effects and stuff. So all of a sudden, what used to be taking 10 minutes took 2 minutes when you had computer aids doing it, so to speak, and all the calculations. So that was a huge difference. So, yeah.
So when we got here, I'm like, I'm not switching to 3. I don't like the way they have I don't like prestige classes. I like some of the prestige classes that I back converted to regular classes.
Yeah. But what do you like about the concept of a prestige class? Meaning, I like the idea of a prestige class.
I like the class itself, but I don't like the way it's set up. I want it to be its own class, like a 1E, 2E class. So, for example, they turn in, and somewhere in the book, duelist is now a prestige class base. You got to get to this, and this, and then you can become a duelist. Screw that. I want to be a duelist from the beginning. You were in first, second edition.
I like the idea of the original bard. That was the first prestige class. Meaning
it was.
You need to train and learn this and that, and then you go and go to the big city, and you go to or you find the bard that can teach you, so to speak. So I tied it into in-game.
No, I don't. I use 1E bards. I hate 2E bards there. Sure. I don't. We have dual classing to this day. So the bard's only when it's a triple. It's an exception to the rule where humans can do it
right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We use the old school one. I hate the 2E bard.
Yeah.
So
I used prestige classes back in the day, both for 3.5 and Pathfinder extensively. So really cool things. If you wanted to be an arcane archer and you were an elf or half elf or something, you can find a master and learn.
It's not the same. I'm going to show you why.
Well,
fighter.
I think that.
Let me get to Asher's argument. Yeah. Fighter. Okay, you say you go up to 7th level fighter. You're in 3E. Your classes are stacked above the fighter, and that. You're now a thief. You're starting over dual class. You can't use your fighter ability. Boom, 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 boom. You get to 8th level thief.
You can use it. You just don't get experience for being a thief.
Surpass, right? So you have to still do the surpassing. Now
to me, that is just dumb. To me, that's just
dual classing for you.
To me, that's just limitations, mechanical limitation for mechanical.
It's a good one,
so to speak. Yeah.
7th level fighter.
How can you grow up
Mage,
thief
not this on top
abilities?
of it? And that's what a prestige class is in 3. It's on top of that class, not on side of it. So it's semantics, but hey, everyone's got their favorites.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry.
I like the idea that you have to go and find someone or some special circumstance in order to be an assassin. You have to somehow make sure you're a member of the Assassin's Guild, and they will teach you the cool thing, or be some specialty wizard, or just to be a cleric of a special religion. You either you have to pray and beg and on your knees to the deity to give you the powers, and eventually you might do it, and he might say that you need to go out and do whatever in the world first and then come back and do it. So and I could say that Killen and Priest, for instance, they have to prove that they are masters of the sword first. Then they can become clerics or
my guys.
Kellen.
I would have never made it to 41 years, and if my guys were at 0 level and 8 adventures. You know what I'm saying, though?
Yeah.
My guys would have killed me.
Well, yeah, you have to learn self-defense as a DM here.
Well, I want to say that I think after playing Warhammer and then seeing 3.5, I think 3rd edition was trying to take elements of Warhammer, which you start in the basic careers, and then after you complete that career, you look at moving on into other fields, and the whole system is based on that sort of thing, and it makes sense. And I think it's very good. I like that system, but I felt like 3.5 was trying to do that.
Agree, sure.
Yeah, just like 4th edition was trying to be a computer MMO on the tabletop, so to speak. So,
well, I don't know anything about 4th.
No, neither do I. All right, so you get to this point, and I'm like, how am I going to make this work? I see some genius in it. I'm going to make this work for me in 1E, 2E. What do I need to do? So this is where Anna, my 1 J comes up, all right, which Anna has coined. I take this, I take the weapons proficiency charts, and I go, they're not fast enough. I need to speed them up. So this is what we have now. Fighter, 1 every 2 levels, not 1 every 3. Starting with 4. Some other most of the classes are enhanced speed-wise on their weapon proficiencies. That's number 1. So look, even a mage is going to get now, instead of 1 every 6, they get 1, 5, 9, right? And we have a bunch of, they're in here. If you haven't seen it, they're in here. Now the names are changed to protect the innocent. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. The ones I'm going to show you are the ones that I have in my binder here.
But now I'm surprised.
Surprised
Fighter is 1 per 2 levels, and knights and cavaliers are 1
Cavaliers.
per 1.
Oh yeah, because cavaliers are 1 every 1 in Dragon 72.
So they are better than fighters.
Oh, absolutely.
Wow.
Because of all, because remember they
Dragon magazine
weapons, multiple weapons, yep, absolutely. But for the sake of their non-proficiency penalty is not as good, and they have to take lance and all that other stuff. So for the sake of that discussion, we'll ignore that. I just wanted to show this chart has been modified for the campaign, and it took a while to figure out and tweak it, and this is what we got to. So every other level, the fighter gets a proficiency. Now, 1, they start with 4, then 3, 5, 7, 9 to get them. All right, number 1, that's that. Number 2, they have to take a weapon. Specific. There's none of this categorized weapons. Back to 1E, 2E. So here's your proficiency. Now, you've probably seen it scrolling. Here's the top half of your proficiencies. The weapon itself, say longsword's 1. Okay, now there's single, double specialization. Fighters get 3 specializations. Here is where I try and figure out how am I going to convert kits, how am I going to convert styles, and how am I going to convert into the fighter class, because I don't want to make multiple fighter classes so that it's be all end all for everything. And this is what we came up with. So you have specialization. You have weapon finesse, dexterity used for to hit rolls, as I think Thunder mentioned. No strength bonus in any hand. Solved. Problem is solved now for finesse fighter. We have some precise strikes. Those are for any class can take them. Nothing near the specialization. But if a mage wants to do it for a specific weapon, I don't care. That's a waste in my opinion, right? 2 weapon fighting. The 2-fisted fighting they have to take. Once again, in Horror and Holes, these are changed to protect the innocent, so there's no conflict of issues. Offhand parry, just like Antiquitous said. You can now offhand parry your weapon in your secondary hand instead of attacking with it. Defensive training, toughness. There's a whole bunch of other stuff. There's overpower. They get you lower your armor class. You add your to hit roll. There's expertise, which is the exact opposite. There's dirty fighting, blind fighting. There's a whole bunch of stuff. And then there's a second chart here. What I'm trying to do, and on this chart, there's some important ones. On this chart, there's some important ones. If you go down to number 34, Shield Mastery. Shield's a magical bonus, including masterwork function at 1+ better for armor class. That's a prerequisite for sword and board. +1 hit with one-handed melee weapons when combined with using a shield. Does not attack with double specialization. So I got to figure some things out and tweak some issues here. And there's other stuff. There's also the dreaded taunt, which is a WoW ability. I'll get to that. So what I've done is you got to take weapons. specifically to use, and then you got to take your specializations and you got to take your other abilities and meld them into a fighter style. All right, that sound anyone, like I said, this is not maybe the way you would do it. It's not the way Tim would do it. Not the way
I like it. I took most of them over to my campaign.
Thank you. Took a while.
It only took 26 years.
It only took 26 years. All right, Fighter Mage, Corey, is a great class. Okay, I'm going to tell you, the Fighter Mage is an elf in an OD&D was a Fighter Mage, right? That's what an elf was. It was a mix. So the Fighter Mage is probably the most popular. Fighter Mage or Cleric Mage? What do you think, Tim? It's close. I'm talking Elven. I'm not talking other races.
Fighter Mage is the most popular.
Fighter Mage is the most popular. It's a good mix. It's a good Elven, half-Elven class, multi-class. Get that heritage of spellcasting, plus having some capability of fighting, being able to use a longbow, being able to use a longsword, being able to fight two-fisted. You can do all that as a Fighter Mage. Because remember, as a multi-class character, you get the most of proficiencies of the fastest one. So you're going to get your fighter. You get 4. Then you get another one at 3rd. And you get another one. Even when you're multi-class, you get the fastest. Ranger Mage? Ranger Mage is cool. Imri and his character is Ranger Mage.
Yeah.
Here's the problem, Rethix, with Ranger Mages. They're great. They take forever to go up. Forever. Anna's been playing this character. How many times you played it? She's only 6'8".
25 times. Or
yes.
Something. She was, what was it, like 4 when she started or something like that, I think.
Something like that, yeah. She's 6'8".
But I don't complain. In my campaigns, you never level up. So I'm happy. I level up if I level up every 10 sessions, it's acceptable. I can't complain, even if I would love to.
You just went to 6'8". You got some new 4th level spells and all. It's exciting. Yeah. So Ranger Mage is a great class, but it is slow because the Ranger table is long, especially in the mid ranges, and Mage too. Mage is way faster than Ranger in the mid ranges because it goes 40, 60,
one
90.
Of the things that
one of the anomalies.
It's weird in meaning classes have very different. That was one of the things that I liked in 3rd edition when they introduced level playing field when it comes to you this many XP and you leveled up, so to speak. That was kind of made it more understandable. Yeah.
And it did. So I'm trying to simplify where I don't have to know every kit in the world either. And I don't want to make kits. I don't want to make a Myrmidon kit. I don't want to make all those. I just don't. And I don't have to be able to, I don't have to open up this book all the time, that Fighter's Handbook that's up. I want to make it so that I know what type of character it is based on what I see on their sheet. Right, Tim? Weapon and your feats, you're going to know what kind of fighter it is. I'll give you an example. So tell me what kind of fighter this is. Ready? Battle Axe, Shield Mastery, Sword and Board, Heavy Crossbow, with specialization in Battle Axe.
He's the that Dwarven shield thing.
Well, true, but they don't have not the two-fisted. That's a tank. That's a Dwarven tank for the most part, or a human, right? Human tank.
Yeah. Are you just talking about general style?
General. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, or for example, ready? Longsword, short sword, two-fisted fighting, weapon finesse, short sword, double specialization, longsword.
The Swashbuckler.
Yeah. An elven human fighter of high dex may not necessarily have a high strength, because your strength is negated even in your primary hand if you have a finesse. So.
Right.
I was going to say how much I can remember that, and this is something I might have forgotten in 1st edition, like so many other things I've forgotten. Was finesse fighting a thing in 1st edition rules? I don't remember that was
second
edition. Okay,
It came around at the end of 2nd. It was a kit, right?
Ah, gotcha.
And once again,
it became a big thing in 3rd edition, but before
huge.
Then, yeah.
But it's around in 2nd. It's in Baldur's Gate 2. It's in all those computer games. They started talking about all that.
Yeah.
The finesse fighter, and we liked that because we wanted to have a style of fighter that was different than the mass damage two-fisted wielder, which drove me insane, and it still to this day does.
I think it's one of the most logical.
We solved that too.
Yeah, if you want to vary your fighter, a finesse fighter, I think, is one of the cool changes.
It is.
So, yeah.
It is. It's a great way to go. So,
and if sorry.
No, monkey boogers. I'm sorry if you're confused. I'm going to try and go over this step by step. I'm trying to explain the history of how we got here. It's just like we got to a point where stuff was not. I want every type of fighter to be played. Okay, now I have them categorized. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 6 different fighter types generally written down, and I'm going to go over them. So note this. The multi-class fighter exists to this day still. The fighter mage, the fighter mage thief, the fighter thief. Big with halflings. Halfling fighter thieves, dwarf fighter thieves. They're around. Fighter clerics. Almost every race will play a fighter cleric. The fighter mage thief, mostly elven. Fighter cleric mage, elven or half elven. Right? Tim, what am I missing?
I'm sorry. I was
fighter assassin. The fighter assassin.
That was a kind of a
fighter assassin.
Obvious,
half
orc speciality.
Half orc.
Kind of, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Half orc fighter clerics. Half orc fighter thieves.
I remember in from first edition. Yep.
Yeah. I was looking at boogers in chat.
And the same thing.
Yeah,
that's his name.
You have a gnome fighter assassin?
No, he was an illusionist assassin.
Wait, would you have a gnome?
Yes.
Fighter assassin?
Yes, you can. You can have a gnome cleric assassin, in an Arcana, or gnome cleric assassin, illusionist assassin, or fighter assassin. Yes, you can. Yep. Yes, they're nasty. The illusionist, as Tim will tell you, the illusionist assassin gnome was a thorn in their side for 20 years. The NPC.
Yes.
So
many times I
don't hate gnomes.
High blood pressure.
Derek, I don't hate gnomes at all, man. I really don't. I just hate when they turn gnomes into what they aren't. And that gnome wizards, no, there are no such thing. So Sonic fighters, no Sonics. We eliminated Sonics. Sonics was the ultimate
I allowed
abuse.
psionics in my game.
Yeah, Sonics is out.
No, I never use psionics.
But you have to roll in front of me.
You only ever see gnome PCs as wizards. Well, you don't have to worry about that in my game because they're not allowed. So, because in 1E, 2E, Arcana, gnomes can't be wizards, just like halflings can't be wizards. It's not happening. Dwarves can't be wizards. Not happening. So Sonics was always too confusing. Sonics was all right. It definitely was, and it became so abused. And I told this story. Started a new group with Mark and his friends from high school. 4 characters. Are you ready for this?
Mistake right there.
4 characters. I don't think Mark's did. 3 of the characters magically happened to roll that they had psionics.
Well, yeah.
And then they all, because those abilities that you get are random. They all rolled cell adjustment.
Ah, man. I was gonna guess it out. Cell adjustment.
There you go, Grendel. Gitano, dead on. Gnome illusionist assassin, the deadliest of classes. Deadly character.
The little gnome illusionist can look like anything because he's an illusionist, and can look so cheerful.
The spells are so deadly.
Threatening.
Mislead, shadow door, vacancy. They're just deadly spells. You never know where they're coming from. Non-detection. You just don't know where they're coming from.
My favorite assassin is the old lady human assassin.
Yes, I know. Aunt Jemima. And yes, and I'm not. That's not a slur. I'm saying that's what her name was. She had knitting needles. Nothing racial there. Yeah. That was her name.
She was knitting. Okay. She would knit and sit in a rocker, knitting away.
She was just an old lady. So.
And her knitting needles were made of adamantite, and she'd assassinate you with them.
That was awesome. Yeah. No, she was a. Race had nothing to do with it. It was just the name of a character that Tim had, and she was just so the pleasant old lady that would kill you.
Honestly, I named her after my great aunt. I named her after my great aunt.
Yes.
We called her Aunt Jerry, but her given name was Jemima.
Yeah.
She was from Ireland. She emigrated in 1914 to the U.S.
There you go. See, absolutely legitimate. So, all right, where was I? Fighters. Straight fighters. I get to I'm going to say this is post 3rd edition. We got feats in. Fighters still are lacking something. And I'm like, what? The fighter's still bland. It doesn't have anything that's cool, right? It doesn't have, like, Rangers have tracking, and what they need something on their own. They need something, they need a spice. So it is in here. Here are a couple things we did. It's in here. All right, that's upside down. A lot of this stuff is in the appendix and Horror in the Holes. A lot of you probably have looked at it. I made up fighter special abilities list. This is for straight class fighters only. This is not, repeat, not for multi-class. They don't get specialization. Here's your fighter class. Okay. Weapon specialization, 3 specials. Any combination. You can't double with missiles. You can do 2 doubles as special. You can do a single. You can do 3 singles. So that is a lot. So I'll give you what has happened. I like taking NPCs like Aaron Winchester, specialized in a 2-handed weapon, single, specialized in a 1-handed weapon, specialized in a missile weapon. Now, we don't do the double damage dice to get the pluses to hit, and the range increases 30 feet for that. So that tends to be a 3-stage type, and I'll talk about that type. But here's what I added. World of Warcraft comes out in like 2003, 4, and I love this taunt ability. I'm like, this is cool. I love taunt. It makes total sense. Why does this exist in D&D? Is taunt an ability a feat? I don't think it is, right? Anna?
Well, in 3.5 and Pathfinder, you have the intimidation skill, and that works.
Okay.
You can work in similar ways.
Similar.
So you can tweak the intimidation a little bit, so you can kind of you simply anger someone so much that they need to aggro you, so to speak. So yeah.
Kenner can taunt in Dragonlance, and there is a taunt spell too.
Yeah.
So our Shield Thane was the first one. Shield Thanes get it built in, our Dwarven Defender type class. But I said, why don't we add this to the listing of the feats? It makes total sense. It'll allow us to create a tank fighter. So let me throw back to this and I'll show it. I should have put it. It's called Deride, by the way, just so there was no issues in Horror in the Holes. Okay, just so you know. You go, these names aren't the same. All right. It should be. Is it on page 2? Shoot, it's on page 2. All right. So we added the taunt ability, number 1. And that ability is you have to take it. You don't automatically get it. Taunt in melee. A target opponent saves versus wands or must. Why pick wands? Why not? Why is petrification a dodge save in 1E, 2E? Why not? We decided, hey, let's do wands so it's used. What's up there, Gallagher? And taunts. Target opponent saves versus wands or must attack character for 3 rounds. Failed, can reattempt after 3 rounds, 10-foot distance maximum, which means the following. Go ahead, Tim.
Also, Jay, the people who have bad wand saves are the ones most likely to lose their cool anyway. So.
Yes, that's true. That's another reason. We don't want to do petrification because we use petrification for other things.
Yeah, that's more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dodgy.
So I'll give you an example. A tank fighter, comes up to someone. He's fighting an orc. Goes to the other orc. Your mom smells of elderberries or whatever. Drawing that one away from a mage or another fighter, and it's melee. You can't do this. You can't taunt an archer. You can't taunt a wizard. It's melee combat we're talking about here. So they're forced to attack them for 3 rounds, kind of opening up others to do other things. It's kind of like there was no tank in D&D. There really wasn't, trying to create that tank class. So fighters have saving throws for normal weapons. I don't know.
Well, armor class is a kind of saving.
Yeah, you get hit with a sword, it hurts no matter, or you get hit with a flail.
Where does it say that?
And Monkey Boogers to put that down.
Saving throws for he probably is a typo or something.
No. Yeah, I think. Remember, armor class and hit points are the ability to avoid damage, not the ability to take damage.
Right.
So yes, 4E, they were able to mark their targets. So I was ahead of the time here, pre 4E, for doing this. if the target attacks someone else, they got a penalty, which is cool, Samuel. It's kind of a variation on this. Once again, my way is not the right way. My way is just my way and the way we play it, and it's cool, and it's just a suggestion for a way to go. So one other thing, I loved, and once again, it's a WoW ripoff. I admit it. I'll admit. I love Battle and Demoralizing Shout in World of Warcraft. It didn't do much, but it was kind of, I was like, oh, this is a cool ability. Why not give this to the straight fighter? And it makes them different now than Rangers and Paladins and all the other things. They have a unique ability. So you'll see if you're playing in a game of mine and you have a straight 7th level fighter, hey, they can Battle or Demoralizing Shout 3 times per day. What does that give you? If you see on here, Battle Shout, this is allies as well. Anyone within 10 feet, +1 to hit at 4th level, and it goes up to +2 at 8th. Allies within 10 feet in melee combat. Demoralizing Shout, -1 to hit for enemies at 4th level, -2 at 8th. Now, you have to do it 1 turn apart. So even if you're 5th level and you do it for 5 rounds, you can't redo it again in round 6. You got to wait a turn. But
gotta let your vocal cords recover.
Yes. But a fighter, 2 fighters, one can battle and one can demoralize and combine them. Okay, because it's 2 separate. Here's another thing. It's not magic. So if that dreaded dispel magic goes off, it doesn't negate it. It's kind of like the bard singing. So
Yeah.
would that intrude on the bard's role a bit? No. I say no. I say it adds to it. And it adds to bless, and it adds to prayer, and it makes a straight fighter give them an ability that
Plus,
no one else has.
It's only a 10-foot range, so it's right there, right
small.
at the front line, right there with your
Bard
comrades.
singing at
It's
60
up to
feet.
them.
Yeah. Bard
Yeah.
sing- yeah.
I think in 3rd edition Pathfinder, then it's intimidation is a charisma skill, which means that bards are especially good at it normally
Not
because they
1d2e.
have high charisma. So and you also use your level to it. So and that also gives fighters a reason to diversify in their abilities a bit.
Absolutely. And Patrick just asked, did you play test these? Yes, for 20 years.
Yeah, and
Yes.
you have things that you only allowed once, and they're kind of in perpetual.
Oh yeah, they're
testing.
gone. They're
Okay,
gone.
yeah.
So, and it was trial and error. We made a lot of changes. There were things that
that's how it should be. Yeah.
Yes. I haven't gotten to the biggest change of all. And Carlos likes this so much. We'll see what Carlos does in his own game. Do fighters get shout as well as weapon specializations? Oh yeah, absolutely. Straight class, not multis. So shout is an innate ability of a straight class fighter in my game. At 4th level, they get the battle shout 3 times per day. It's 10 foot, 1 round per level lasting. So for 4 rounds, they get a +1 to hit, or they get their opponents get -1. It's got to be something that understands it somehow or has a brain. You can't demoralize and shout a golem. Now you can
Exactly.
battle shout your allies.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It makes sense. Undead and stuff should be.
You can't demoralize them, but you can battle shout your allies fighting them.
Yeah.
You know?
They need intelligence and some sort of,
Yeah.
of feelings and emotions and stuff like that to understand it. So but that's something you as a DM have to make a judgment call. Meaning, to a vampire, can you intimidate a vampire or not? So yeah.
Fighters get weapon specialization with multiple attacks and 3 specialization slots now for varied. They can only double specialize then in 1 weapon, and they can single in up to 3 weapons. Yes,
Jay, do you make it where a missile weapon only takes 1 slot, and then you remove the double damage at close?
Yeah, there's no
range?
double dice damage. It's only plus to hit in range. So if you look in the Handbook,
so it just takes 1 slot then.
1 slot.
All
So
right.
so you got to take longbow or say heavy crossbow or light crossbow or whatever, and then you take your weapon specialization for missile in here. No double damage dice. Ranges are increased 30. And then you get +2, +2, +1, +1. I think you got +1 at medium for certain, like crossbow, but not bow or something. So yes, archers in our game are the best missile firers there are. I don't want the fighter or the cavalier to outdo the archer with missile, and it doesn't. So they don't, and that's where
that's interesting. Instead, you solved a lot of the issues and stuff that 3rd edition tried to solve with feats. Yeah. You solved that with having classes, so to speak. So
with a class and with feats melded into the proficiency system, and also adding an ability or 2. Yeah. Here's the biggest one of all. I still have the problem of the Torque Storms and the Alnor Moonchilds of the world running around doing 70 points of damage with 7 attacks every 2 rounds, right? I got to figure out how to deal with this. So what do? Also, no one's using two-handed sword anymore. No one's using Bardiche. No one's using Halberd. I want them back in the game. What are we going to do? And this is also in Horn Holes. Specific notations to melee combat rule.
Nobody but me is using those.
Like Josh Death Dealer. I'll give you an example. Chuck's character. We'll talk about Chuck's character, for example, afterwards here. So he uses the Bohemian Ear Spoon anymore. Yeah, well, there's a lot of weapons that are used and aren't, and I'll show you that chart, that table too. So when you wield a two-handed weapon, it includes Bastard Sword two-handed, not one-handed. Two-handed sword, slashing polearms, including halberd, non-thrusting. I'm not talking about spear, thrust, spedum, their spear class, because you can use a shield with a spear. Your weapon damage bonus goes up 1.5 times, round up. So if you are +3, say you are 18/01 strength, you're +1 hit, +3 damage. You are now with a two-handed weapon, +1 to hit, +5 damage. Okay? Number 1. Number 2, your secondary hand when you fight, on all cases, I don't care who it is, I don't care if it's Drizzt, your secondary hand damage bonus is now rounded down by 50%, and you round down. So if you're +1 hit, +3 in the old day in your secondary hand, you're now +1 to hit, +1 in your secondary hand strength bonus. That
makes sense.
Yes. So
it passes the common sense test.
Yep. Thank you. That solved the issue right there. Now what it has done is created, and we're talking, the Saxon class is an exception, and we won't even go into that in this discussion. It's created these cool multi-stage fighters, and if you know everyone, Chuck, who won that, who beat Tim's character Reginald in the first round of the joust. So we're going to go to.
Lost a lot of money.
Yeah, a lot of people did. Trust me on that. Where is he? Josh Death Dealer. Where is he? All right, so here we go. Josh Death Dealer. Okay. So Josh Death Dealer is a 7th level fighter. Josh Death Dealer has the following: halberd single specialization, and then he took the improved critical as well for halberd, so he cuts on a 19 or 20. Longsword single specialization, defensive training, lowers armor class 1, and taunt plus lance. So he can fight as a tank or as a DPS damage, high damage, or with the halberd. So he has 2 different weapon styles he fights with, and which is kind of neat. 18/40 strength, 15 dex, 16 con. There you go. So when he remembers. Got to eat some dinner. Yeah, thanks, Taka. Thank you for the resub and all that. So in real life, weapons with reach dominated in the battlefield, but that isn't always reflected in RPGs. Reach is a difficult thing to do in miniature combat because of we're not doing individual initiative, and I don't want my rounds going 3-4 times the length that it would. When you do an individual initiative, the game bogs down, especially with miniatures. If I have a fight with 20, I know you could say, oh, you do all the orcs at the same time. It still doesn't matter. Imagine me doing 3 PCs, the orcs, 2 PCs, then the goblins. I won't remember. It's only, I'm not doing it via computer. If we're doing it in VTT, it's a different story. The VTT automatically calculates it. Can't do it in miniatures. It's a tough thing to do. Really tough. So reach is kind of.
It's just that combat would start one round earlier, so to speak. That's basically what reach, meaning that if you have them advancing, then one side will hit 1 round earlier before the other ones can engage, so to speak.
I'll generally just make it
keeping it bay.
Yeah, making it a call on like last game. There was a guy who had a knife trying to fight somebody who had a spear.
Yeah,
the spear guy's going to get his shot in first.
Yeah, I love reach. That was one of the thing I really liked, especially when you have things like dragons and stuff, when they can reach like 20, 30 feet. and they had to run that gauntlet in order to get to it, so to speak. That's one thing. And the other thing I loved about Reach was that, imagine you have early editions, if you have like a 10th level fighter can just walk through hordes of enemies and just slaughter them left and right. But once you have Reach, and especially when I add in my flanking rules, then you can have like a shield wall, and then you can have people in second rank standing with spears and stuff. That was all of a sudden you had like formations really mattered, and it was really, really hard to kind of crush a determined defense that was 20 fighters or 20 whatever little orcs or goblins with shields and spears and stuff. They were formidable defenders in that way.
And Anna, you were going to run into that rule, because I took your rules, and you were going to run into that if you guys didn't fly away that last adventure.
Yeah. So that was the So that's the you can, and then you have so you have to kind of. And that's because I wanted to have things like, because otherwise if we do like we did in last one, you spread out just to avoid being hit by spells. So I wanted there to be advantages for spreading out, but also advantages for clumping together and do it. So, and I also wanted single characters, even if they're really powerful, to be vulnerable, so to speak. So that was
I've implemented that with certain monsters where the mass up rule, the pluses, but not to the level you have where you can have 10 people attacking one. I mean, it's just we have with miniatures we have the rule of 3. If anyone doesn't know that,
for me, it's you basically end up like 10 or so, depending on, because you have like, depending on the reach. So if you have like one creature that have 1 square, then you have like, what is it, like 3, there's like 9 squares around it. And then so you can basically have like, theoretically there could be like 15 or 18 or something like that, but then they all have to form up and do it, so to speak. So
Spear only needs 1.5 feet.
Yeah, so I've never used more than 10. 10 is the absolute limit I've used. Yeah. So meaning, and that would have been someone who deliberately stepped, and it was a square, and there were city guards, and someone said, I'm going to start fighting them. And so they basically ganged up, but it took like 3-4 rounds for them to form the perimeter around it, so to speak. And he continued to fight, and that's when they reached it. So that's the only time I reached that high. 4 or 5 is usually the top you normally reach in most circumstances.
I've been in sparring with 15 versus 15, and when one of the sides flanks gets rolled up, all of a sudden it's 2 versus 12.
Yeah.
So
that's terrible.
What we figured out in 40 years is the following. You got to get it to the point where you can move the combat along quickly, that it makes somewhat of sense. It's not going to be perfect, but it's a fantasy setting, right? And that you will have some advantages based on different types of styles and weapons and whatever. We don't have weapons. We don't have versus armor class weaponry. My head would explode, right? Never used it since day one. Weapon speeds are very tough to do with group initiative. It's almost impossible. So things are sacrificed. It's just the way it is with a miniatures game with all this stuff on the table. This is the way we play it. Spears should be used by PCs and NPCs in a smart way, not just out of movement rate. Yeah, it's a lot. I break my spear in half, so game balance is key. Absolutely. So we get to this point, and this is what we have. And I'm going to characterize 6 different types of fighters. Let's see if Tim or Anna may have other ones. So the first one is the tank, which technically really didn't exist early on in the game in 1E, 2E. And that is someone usually who takes one weapon, for the most part, maybe a missile weapon like a crossbow. They single or double specialize in it. They take taunt. They take a shield. They always have a shield. Shield mastery. They can take the sword and board to get an extra +1 to hit. As long as it doesn't stack with double specialization. We did that to eliminate massive abuse there. And they may take expertise to lower their armor class. And a couple other things they may take. So, Tim, you have any tanks that you have?
I don't think I have a tank.
Thank you. I'm using a 1E. I'm using the 1E where it goes up every 2 levels. I don't like the every level reducer. I like the original 1E table where it goes up every 2 levels. Yep. Good question.
Yeah, I use the smooth table that Len came up with.
Yeah, which is okay. I mean, and like I said, this is not the right way for everyone to do it.
Same.
Take suggestions, pilfer whatever you want. There's a lot of stuff in the appendix and Hools, and it's right at your disposal. So the tank. The next one is the two-fisted finesse fighter. They usually take small weapons in both hands. You cannot finesse with a weapon larger than a rapier in our game. Cannot. Rapier's the largest. You can't finesse with a longsword. You can't finesse with a battle axe. Right?
Yeah, that's those aren't finesse
right.
weapons.
Rapier.
Well, aren't finesse only certain weapons that have the trait of finesse?
See,
that's
you're
the third
thinking third
edition.
edition. That's third
Yeah,
edition.
exactly. Yeah. Meaning there's certainly certain weapons that are made to like.
We allow finessing with a horseman's mace.
Oh,
we allow
okay.
finessing with a dagger, hammer.
No, the finesse. Yeah, the finesse is only weapons that are made to be used with high dex.
That's a 3 Pathfinder.
We're talking about length, right?
Yeah. I love that the elves have a two-handed curved blade that is used for finessing, and it's kind of that's really cool. Yeah,
interesting.
Yeah, it's like a great sword for elves that are finesse. That's the kind of the coolest.
Can finesse be used with a spear or light polearm type weapon? The answer in our game is no.
No, because those weapons are mass weapons, and a spear is not a. I mean, you could argue it's a finesse. The finesse has to do with the style of applying the physics to the target.
Staff.
That's what the finesse is. The finesse is how to do it. Like I used to crack my friends up. I would have a sparring cut and thrust sword, and I would dance around like a little dainty, like a Renaissance dancer, and go finesse. I'm going to finesse you, and they would just laugh as I stabbed them in the face because I'm not trying to bully them. I'm just using speed and displacement and all that just to do that. But the weapon has to be appropriate for using the speed and timing and your high dexterity, because that's what it's for, right? It's for that type of fighter, not the brute bullfighter, the one that's just pounding you with a mass weapon. So
here's our master sword list table. All right, and if you note and go to where rapier is, anything rapier and up is able to use a finesse primary or secondary hand. All right, so you can finesse in your primary hand. Anything that's falchion, mariner, elven thinblade, saber, scimitar, broad, kopesh, piercer, long, sayax, bastard, falx. No, you can't finesse with them. Now there's other blunt weapons that are on this list that you can finesse with in our game. So
what's under rapier?
Epee.
Under rapier?
Rapier, epee,
no,
short.
Under.
Oh, falchion.
Yeah. Falchion's a mass cutter. Yeah.
Mariner sword, which is a special halfling dwarf weapon, 1/8, 1/8. Same as scimitar. No. Finessing with a scimitar is not happening. Finessing with a saber, that's right on the border, but elven thinblades, the one of those 1/8, 1/8. We kept it to rapier 1/6, 1/6 back and damage.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yep. So there you go. And by the way, we've added, as you can see, another variety. We'll talk about at the end, adding weapons to your fighters. There's all sorts of articles on tons of weapons you can add to the game to really give your fighter. So what happened to fighter that in OE and BX was pretty plain to having all these abilities? They didn't have any of these abilities. They had none of these abilities in O0 and BX. They swung a weapon. That was it. They didn't do anything. They had weapons. They took proficiencies. I didn't think they had proficiencies. They were proficient in all weapons basically in BX. They could use it. They had no specialization and no special abilities. Nothing. They just were someone with a weapon and a shield. Maybe. Am I wrong on that, Anna and Tim? I think I'm correct on. That's all they were people with a weapon.
Yeah, there were no other abilities in the beginning of the game.
No, it was so simple now that it's
just
kind of
they had no special abilities.
Ridiculous.
You could hit stuff, you could throw a throwable, and you could shoot a shootable, and that was about it.
Yeah,
the dwarf was better as a class. I agree. When did they become just more of a guy with a weapon? When 3E made him that, and 1.J made him that.
For me, it was Yeah.
When did a mixed martial artist become more than a dude with some light gloves on?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. For me, that was 3rd edition when
Yeah.
fighters came of age, so to speak, when they became a cool class, and same thing to some degree with the clerics becoming priests of various gods rather than some sort of pseudo Christian, someone who just use blunt weapons. To me, that was, it was just, to me, it was just silly hampering without no
Banter makes
gaming
sense.
reason.
It makes
Yeah.
total sense to do that, to add weapon specialization back in that game too.
Yeah.
So another type, the two-handed fighter, the cleaver type, mass damage dealer. Now, think about this. They're specialized at 7th level. They're going to get 2 attacks per round. I can live with that. So we're talking about two-handed swords. We're talking about bardishes. We're talking about great
halberd.
Halberd.
Yeah, well, the polar
Bastard sword. Yeah, not the spear class, not spedums, but glaives and glaive with arms and vulges and tridents, which is right on the board. They're forgotten weapons.
Yeah,
they're forgotten weapons.
They're kind of cool in a way. So
that's what we're trying to do there, is take those. I'll give you another one. Dwarven Claymore, which we added in for dwarves, the two-handed sword that dwarves have. Bardiche, which is a great axe. That's a big one. So, and they get the 1.5 times damage, and they can specialize. Okay, Tim.
But in the very beginning games, I looked at all my old characters on those homemade little character sheets we used to use before anything was published, and almost every one of mine had a trident.
I had Bardiche.
The polearm of choice in my house.
Gazumba fought with a Bardiche, no shield, and he fought with a Bardiche. That's what he fought.
I always had some sort of sword, a blunt weapon, a pole weapon, and a missile weapon, because there was no specialization. So fighters had 4. I always had bow or crossbow, always had a pole weapon, always had a blunt
and a sword
and a sharp.
Yep, back in the day, because you didn't have any other abilities. You didn't have two-fisted fighting. You didn't have any of that.
And that's just smart planning right there.
Trident and net. Well, that's the style for gladiator fighting, which would be the way to go, right? Trident and military fork are usually confused as the same weapon, but they're not really.
Trident is 2 to 7.
3 to 12.
3 to 12. So it's a good one.
Yep.
And also they can be shorter than the long pole arms.
Yep. Absolutely, it's a good weapon. And
yes,
think about variety in your fighters. There's nothing. I just lost my eraser here. It fell out. My Tom. That's okay. It's my Tom pencil. It's on the floor somewhere. I'll get it. So there's nothing better than coming at the baddies or your players with a fighter that they're just not prepared for. So bring it them a specialized fighter with a trident. They're not going to be ready for him, or a specialized fighter with a halberd. See how scared they are of that character, you know. Yo, George, thanks, man.
You see a pole axe in action, even just training with them, and it is
devastating,
scary.
Yeah. Absolutely. Remember, Tim is an armor guy, so he's fought with a lot of different weapons.
Yeah, and even spears are underrated, because spears were very effective. I've seen several fights with back when they had jousts and stuff, and spearmen. Spear versus sword. Damn, spear wins almost every time. Sword was more of a kind of a status thing than actually super effective in combat. So
sword is, I mean, it can be effective, but all things being equal, that range is going to help you with the spear.
Yeah.
And their goal is to get inside that spear, and if it's a good spear wielder with some room, that's going to be hard. Very hard.
Also spears are cheap and easy to make. You don't need that much metal, and they're really effective compared to what they cost. So I can understand why back in medieval times and antiquity that you had way more spearmen than you had people with swords.
It's kind of when I was practicing with a spear, I would think of a rapier, and that improved my spear use. And then I was fighting with a rapier, I would think about spears, and it would improve my rapier use.
Yeah.
So they kind of,
Yes, he did. They were Myrmidons. The Myrmidons, Dragon Silver, and the Myrmidons' fighting style is spear and shield. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it existed in the form of the bayonet still in modern times. So it's
good point. Real good point that the bayonet existed, which is basically a type of spear. Okay. Next style. The two-fisted damage dealer. They still exist, where they don't go with weapons. Say they have 18/51 strength, +2/+3.
Oh, you mean actually using your fists?
No. I'm sorry.
Okay,
Two
okay.
weapon. Two-fisted
Yep.
is the way it says in the Roger Moore code. The two-weapon
Oh,
damage.
okay. Well, okay,
Longsword, Horseman's Mace. That's a big one for us because of the damage 1 to 6 on the Horseman's Mace. Longsword, short sword is a big one too.
Oh yeah, I like that one.
+2/+3 in the primary, +2/+1 in the secondary. Can't specialize in the secondary hand, but you can't finesse. But you're attempting to get as many attacks as you can and do a lot of damage. That still exists, and you tend to take a single specialization or double in your primary hand. By the way, you are not allowed to double specialize with polearms or with the two-handed sword, as per the rules in Unearthed Arcana, with the exception of the Saxon class, which is a foot knight, which is the only one in our game that allows it, and I'll go over that in a future time. And that may be in an
Bardiche, right?
You can't double in the Bardiche.
No, except for that class.
That class can, yeah. That's the only one that can double in polearms. Yep. So, but single is enough for that damage. So, and then you have two others. You have the missile specialist. So you have someone who has weapons, but they prefer to, there's items in the game that are great, like crossbows of speed. Get a heavy crossbow specialist or a short bow specialist. It's good. You know, and then they can fight.
So you're saying Nodnol doesn't get double damage within 60 feet anymore?
Never did in my game.
I think he did in the very beginning.
He did maybe in the very beginning, but that was 35 years ago. You haven't played that character in my campaign for 35 years, dude.
Yeah.
Can you even remember the character you played 35 years ago? Wow.
Well,
hey, thanks, Samuel.
He's unique. He every stat he has is average except for his comeliness.
Yes.
And he was specialized with heavy crossbow because he's like, I don't want to get close to those guys.
The missile specialist. We're like, why do bows get 2 shots around, but crossbow gets 1 that does the same damage roughly? So we switched it. Light crossbow in our game does 1 to 8, medium and large. Heavy's 1 die 10, 1 die 10. A little more devastating shot with a heavy crossbow and a light crossbow than, and it's single. So that removed the. Yeah, go ahead, Anna.
Oh, no, so please go ahead.
I was going to say, we were losing crossbow people, and now we got them back in droves now because of that.
Yeah.
So
one of the things that I try to, because the way I see it is that the reason a lot of they employed crossbows back in medieval times were probably because crossbows are easier to learn than they're difficult to reload and take, but they're easier to use. You aim and you shoot. A bow and the bolt is more like a bullet on a crossbow bolt, so it goes straighter, so you can aim at things and shoot at it. The bow is more like an indirect fire weapon, so to speak. So to hit something with a bow that is further away than 1 range increment or 2 is really hard. You need to fire up like that, and it takes years to practice.
It's the training factor. I actually watched a video today.
Yeah.
Did
And it was
you link
a guy
that to me
shooting
too?
an English longbow,
Yeah.
140-pound pole,
Yeah.
and it was a guy with a 960-pound crossbow.
Oh my gosh!
And they went to fire, so they both fired at the same time. Blink. And by the time the guy got the second bolt on the crossbow, the longbowman had fired like 8. Ran out of arrows, so 8 to 12 arrows he'd already fired.
Yeah. So the way I want to do it is to make crossbows easier to use, take a long time to reload, but they do roughly the same amount of damage. But the bow is much harder to use, but it can fire way more often. And also one big difference: if you want to shoot in a forest or indoors, the crossbow will win out because you can actually shoot through trees and leaves. If you can see the target, you can hit it at much longer distance. But a longbow, you can shoot someone out in the field, but try to do that in a corridor where there's low ceiling or in a forest, then the crossbow will win out. So bows are, if you want bows will have the inherent damage. If you want to deal a lot of damage in 1 round, the bow will outlast the crossbow a million times, so to, or like 100 times. It's way more powerful that way. But on the other hand, it takes much longer to use, and there's other limitations like the flight thing, so to speak. And if it's very, very windy, I will also give the crossbow an advantage over the bow.
I think the other bows in that we normally see in D&D are just regular bows. They fall in the 70-pound or less pull.
Oh yeah, but yeah.
And I think the ones that are in the archer article
Or special.
then you're getting to the real serious, heavy ones. You have to be strong enough to actually use it.
Yeah, Leonard's not here to defend his archer.
Yeah, but that's the other thing that third edition and Pathfinder and stuff, you have the composite longbow, and the composite bows where you can actually build them for strength. And there you have it. So if you have like a 19 strength, you can actually build a bow that creates way more damage, that lets you do the strength damage.
As long as you're not weakened at all.
Exactly, because then you can't use it. Yeah. Yeah. That's
up,
the other
Tom?
drawback.
Actually,
so there's always a drawback to every and that's
It-
that I think
in
is
my charity game.
Yeah.
In my charity game, there was a character who had a bow, a masterwork bow that was heavy for their strength bonus. So they just never had a chance to shoot.
Yeah.
So note, once again, there's a debate on which is better, but just note that they're available and they make kind of sense now that you can utilize either.
Yeah.
And you can also utilize dagger specialization. You can also utilize dart thrown specialization now because of the way the system is set up. Trying to create variety, complete variety. Good.
But I was going to say also the difference I see between crossbows and bows is not the amount of damage they deal. It's the nature of their use that I think is the big difference. A heavy crossbow and a composite longbow that is used for your strength, they can dole out equal amount of damage. Maybe the bow can even be better if it's built for really strong. But on the other hand, you can build a crossbow that has the same amount of pull. That it would just take longer to reload.
I think the crossbow is better from ambush or from assassination or some, because you can lay down with it, and you can also, it stays cocked. It's ready to go. A bow, you have to draw it.
Yep.
And then aim and fire, which you can give yourself away by the sound of drawing it. And
so in a way, you can ready an action with a crossbow more effectively for longer than you can with a bow.
It's a good discussion point.
Yeah.
As to
so there is a lot of plus and minuses, but not so much damage per se, because both a longbow and a crossbow can kill someone with a full plate. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
I like the change. I like the changes on damage on the crossbows. I agree with that. I also like the longbow getting the 1d8, right, Jay? That's what you said. Longbow gets.
No, longbow's still 1/6.
No, so that's a change I made. I made longbow. You get 1d8, but if you're in that category firing more than 3 times a round, it drops to 1d6 because you're not doing the full draw. You're not drawing it all the way back.
Yeah, and that's the way in Pathfinder 1 and 3.5, bows are overpowered because they do 1d8 and they can start doling out enormous amount of damage. You can shoot a lot of arrows and stuff. So what I did was that I made it more difficult to learn bows, and because crossbows it takes a long time to reload them, so they never get overpowered that way. So a ranger or a fighter or someone who takes a lot of feet into using a bow, meaning they sacrifice other abilities, they can get enormous amount of utility out of it at a distance, but only in certain when they can really fire it well.
With Lens Archer and all the pluses they get, you don't need to. I think that plus is taken into account, not changing in the 1d6 to 1d8. That's just my thought. What Len was trying to adjust as well.
Yeah.
With Lens Archer, if you look at the Archer tables and the crazy pluses that archers get, and we love archers. That's our first custom class we ever used. So Len was on, kind of on the right track as
I love the arcane archer is my favorite prestige class.
Well, they were
Elven arcane archers are just awesome.
Disgusting.
Yeah. No, they're fantastic. They're so much fun. They
do hundreds of points of damage.
They can, yeah. I've had the record in all the Pathfinder organized play I played in. I have my Erdelisi. She was an arcane archer. She was like, so we had a special when we after normally you have to retire when you're 12th level, and we played special. So she was 14, I think, and we had like giants coming up, and we were buffed beyond anything, so to speak. And she came and it was like 400 feet, and was like, yeah. Now she's in range. It's range, and I started firing up, and I think I shot like 6 arrows, and I crit twice, and I was buffed beyond it. Did over 300 points of damage, and they retreated. So that was it. That was the boss fight. So that was fun. Yep.
So yes, with a proficiency. All right, about riding with here. So if we go back to that question, we got proficiencies 2. You'll see up here, mounted combat, improved mounted combat, spirited charge. If you get improved mounted combat, propelled missiles, you can at half rate, you can actually fire while mounted with that, and that's how we address that. So yes, the question is, you can at some point. I want to know when they're opening a bed and breakfast prior to a con near her home. My wife would kill me if I did that. So the answer is probably not. But
well,
you know,
when you retire, you can have a bed.
Yes,
she can run the bed and breakfast, and you run the games. And
in about in about I don't know 9-10 years. So if we survive it. So
would you allow somebody with a longbow to fire from horseback effectively?
I would if. Oh, sorry. Did you ask Jay?
No.
I wouldn't.
No.
Even with the they can use short bows.
Right. That's why the Elven Cavalier takes short bow, not longbow. The class.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
For me, it will be a feat, meaning you have to mounted combat.
The Huns weren't longbows.
Mounted archery.
There's no way to draw it right.
Huns were not longbows. They were recurves, which are not longbows.
Yeah,
they were short.
But I would require a composite longbow, not a regular longbow. Yes,
but it's still long.
So it's a composite.
But it will be a special feat to do it.
Yeah.
Meaning you have to have mounted archery, and then you have to take mounted archery with the longbow. So you have to sacrifice some other ability, like some longbow, long sword specialization.
Repeating crossbow, like in Hawk the Slayer.
Once those guys get first level, they'll have a chance to get some stuff. Then.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
That'll be a good feat.
All right, so the last of the 6 is the multi-class jack of all trades, which we still have to this day. And the advantage on that is, say you're a fighter mage. You can take stuff like precise strike, shield mastery. You can go all different directions, two-fisted fighting. But here's the thing: you can now take 4 proficiency slots. You can throw one of them into our extra spell slot. You can throw one of them into another mage ability like a battle touch or spell extension. So you get some advantage there by being a multi-class fighter type. You get your proficiencies faster. So that's kind of the advantage to taking that, and why we still have multi-class ones, which is cool. And those tend to be the 6 that we have in the game. And to further add fun to it, and I showed this already, we added other weapons. And from a couple articles, we're always looking to add weapons, but some of the big ones that we added was the Falx, the Dacian Falx, which I love. All right. We added the Sayax, which is basically the Viking Sayax, which is just that tip point. You ever seen them Forged in Fire? They always make Sayaxes. And that's the same damage as a longsword, but it is a different weapon. It's funny how I give out a lot of Sayaxes with special abilities on them too. So, we added the Dwarven Claymore.
The knife I'm making actually has that type of blade.
Yep, absolutely. We've added the Rapier and Epee. We've added the Elven Thin Blade. Some other ones that are on there. Glavalot. We didn't add the Zweihander. That's probably one we should add, right? That's a two-handed sword though, right?
Yeah, that's or great sword, what they call it in later editions, I think.
Falx was vicious. Yep. No S-Stock. S-Stock probably. Where's S-Stock fall into that category, Tim?
S-Stocks are actually. Oh, do you want to talk reality?
Yeah.
An S-Stock is closest to a bastard sword, a real bastard sword, not the D&D version.
Okay. Yes. Where's his tongue tool?
Primarily for thrusting. Bastard swords are primarily for thrusting, and S-Stock very raised center, and some of them were made with 3 edges. So it was like like a triangular shaped blade that was concave, came down to a very rigid, very sharp point, so you could grasp it and shove it into the chinks in their arm, hit them in the armpit, under the helmet,
yeah,
in the groin, behind the knee.
So you're saying it's closest to Bastard Sword and D&D Bastard Sword. Okay. Josh asked where the tongue tool is, Tim. He's finding it. There you go.
Not far.
Yes.
I owe Josh one still.
Uh-oh.
I'm getting the workshop in order. I got to finish it.
There you go. All right. So look at that. 9:15, man. Wow.
Yeah.
Listen, we went over a lot about the fighter. Just note that I want to explain the evolution of it and why we did what we did. And note that my way is not your way. And that's a great thing about D&D. Pilfer whatever you want. Pilfer none of it. It's fine. But note that I think there's a cool way to really, and I don't know about 5th edition, but I gotta think that there's ways of enhancing 5th edition fighters too. Yeah.
Well, they have feats.
Shout. There you go. If you pilfer one thing, that's great. The battle shout and the demoralizing shout, I think is awesome. 10 foot, and it cannot dispel magic. Does not dispel it. It's not magical. It's a morale. It's like, that's the kind of thing. And I will admit, like, World of Warcraft got that right, and I was like, this is a great idea for D&D. Good, Tim.
In the armor collection at the Philadelphia Art Museum, they have a fantastic example of an S-stock.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I didn't go there when I was a kid and catalog every item there, did I?
I agree there, Alex. Taunt should have been included from day one, or some kind of a taunting ability. I agree. I won't steal from WoW. That's shameful.
I prefer taunt as a role play thing. You got to make it good on them. I don't like it as an automatic saving throw.
No,
but when I'm a player in Jay's game, I'll use it.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I can sometimes I like to have some mechanics for stuff like that, because I don't want to penalize players who don't have that kind of skill in. Meaning, if you have people that are masters at improv, yeah, fine. Then it depends on what game group you have it, so to speak. So some groups you have people that are into deep RP and doing all that stuff, then I might want to emphasize more on the mechanic and rolling the dice. And some groups you can just ignore that and just go with what the players say. So that I think it's a bit type of group.
And as a DM, you're free to always reward good role play. Absolutely.
Exactly.
And ideas and stuff, and think outside the box and go, you'll allow that. But note that when you play with the same people for 41 years, you got to figure out how to set things up. So what class is next on your hit list? Well, that's a good question, because I'll tell you what we got next week and all. And I did a delving into series early on in the 30s and 40s. So this fighter one, and you'll see if you go watch back 42, Carlos and I are going back and forth the whole time, because Carlos kind of gets what we're talking about there. But I may go back to down the road the damage dealer. Like, I'll talk about the Saxon, talk about the archer again, talk about the duelist again. Some really cool ones. But we'll figure out some things as we continue. But I'll show you what we got. Excuse me, coming up. Excuse me. What we got coming up, and note that the gift certificate tonight is a perfect opportunity if you don't have it already, to use that money. I think this plus the PDF is 26, and you're getting a 25er there. So, and then you can get all this stuff in the supplement. And I'll be putting more rules in there as well too. Oh, thanks, Patrick. Don't have to be a great actor. Don't have to be a great role player, and just and you see that in different games. You see in my game on Thursdays, my guys are exactly what they are. We are a stream of us playing the game in a tabletop setting. We are not a theatrical presentation. There's some RP in there, but it's not all RP. It's just not the way we like playing. So thank you. It's a good looking module. It's also I'm so ecstatic and humbled by how well it has done. So I have not heard a negative from anyone yet. Now, if someone has a negative, please tell me, but I have not heard a negative from it yet. There's one or two typos that were caught. that someone told me Fritz had like a crazy high charisma and like a wisdom. I'm like, no, he's got 7 wisdom. So, bing, 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 bing. Oh yeah, you're like that. I have terrible female voices. John's a little bit better at female voices than me, but John's have all that Irish brogue accent when he talks. I think with the female voice.
I have a terrible voice, whatever I'm going to say in whatever language. So yeah, I can talk regularly, but that's it. Yeah.
Yes, who choose that? Yeah, exactly. So always ask me questions. I try. Yeah. Always ask me questions. Always come to me with suggestions. But wait till you hear what we have coming up. So let me see what that is. Can we talk about fiction, nonfiction that fuels your D&D? I pull from. I don't know where. I don't know. I am not a. I talked about this with Tim all the time, right, Tim?
Reality?
D&D is a fantasy game, and when you start converting it to reality, it no longer becomes a fantasy game, and then it's not a fantasy game anymore. It's a medieval setting reality game that's very, very a downer because people are like, I'm a peasant. You know what I mean? That's what I felt about. That's how I felt Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay was. It was a downer, right? You died very easily in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay.
You could die.
Yes.
Just like in D&D, you can die too, really easily.
Yep. So
it all depends on the. What I like about Warhammer is that there's repercussions. There is no murder. I never played
Warhammer.
Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay is very realistic. Look at the crit tables.
Okay. Yes. Are they worse than?
That's why Tim original basis were that, and then other guys helped make it. Yeah, yeah, you're right, Barantor. It was a downer on purpose. So, I don't know.
Grim.
What's that?
It's grim and perilous. It says it. Adventure in a grim and perilous world. That's how it starts.
It's not a matter of liking or disliking. It's a matter of I just like that. Our game, and I like where it's evolved over 41 years, and I love that now I have heraldry, and now I have Anna's maps, and now I have a module published, and now I have Portrait Workshop working on getting 2,000 character images up. I mean, it is a lot of cool things, and it's not a dislike of anyone else's stuff. I just like playing D&D, old school. That maybe answers the question. But as far as real, D&D is based on Middle Earth, right? It is. It is based on Middle Earth. It really, Ents, Treants, Elves, Orcs. It's all based on that. Rangers. I mean, gosh, it's taken right from Middle Earth, right? The Ranger. Some stuff's based on medieval, like Paladins, and Paladins weren't good guys back in the day either. A Paladin was a type of gangster almost, right? Depending on what they were doing, No. So there's all different sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
The Paladins, I think, was Charlemagne talked about.
Well, yeah, I guess, but that doesn't mean that Charlemagne was always in the right to do good or there either. Charlemagne.
No, but I mean, they were reputed to go and,
right,
do good things.
Enforce, for them.
Like any ideal, there's a bell curve. You have the ones in the middle that are good, then you have the extra good ones, but on the other end, you got the extra bad ones.
Exactly. So as far as fiction and nonfiction, I don't know. It's got a Lord of the Rings flavor to it, and I build within the Greyhawk setting. So it's hard to say where it comes to real life. It just doesn't. I want to keep it a fantasy setting, as I sure put it the best, I think. He said, mine's a heroic style Greyhawk. A lot of people don't have that, right?
I'm more gritty style Greyhawk than heroic. It's heroic but gritty, or gritty and heroic, and
it's the same Greyhawk, just different groups of people in that Greyhawk.
Yeah, and they have to start, and also the magic is powerful but more scarce than it will be in most other campaigns. I think it might. In some ways, can even more powerful, but more people don't run around every adventure don't run 25 magic items and stuff like that. So yeah, so it's more scarce, but
I'm gonna put Anna in. I didn't do a single. I was so enthralled in getting all this out. I didn't do a single announce the entire time, but I'll do them as we go.
Oh, it's
so
okay.
what's going on, Anna?
Okay, I just published today the 8th episode part on the new Greyhawk maps, and that's biomes and textures. And for the first, and it's not the final version. I have to emphasize that, but you can go to my Patreon. It's open for everybody to watch, to look at the article. And there is no, I have to, even if you might find the pictures look amazing, but I have to state that it's raw. It's not rendered with proper lighting or anything like that. It's not the final results, but it's study in how the texturing and biomes really work, so to speak, and going into it. And there's no trees, no bushes and trees on it yet, so that's coming. But I'm really pleased with the results. And so it's starting to look amazingly detailed and super cool. So even the 200 square miles that are rendered in one go kind of looks awesome. I found a really cool place, like an island in a bog where a little hill, perfect to build your keep or a little village on top, and because it's hard for anyone to approach, because you basically have the bog as a moat around it, unless you get bog mummies or something. But yeah. So there's always a negative with every positive, I guess. So yeah, but it's interesting. I'm really impressed with how cool and varied a piece of the shield lands have become. And so awesome. Next step is to get trees and stuff in there. And I'm also going to post very soon, post about my Patreon reshuffle or upgrade, so to speak, and changes that are coming, because we're going out of pandemics into the future, so to speak. So I'm going to revamp a few things and stuff. So that's coming, post about that too, very soon.
Awesome.
Yep.
And Anna, are we ever going to be able to buy a topographical map of the region? Because I like hiking, so I want to be able to look at this.
That's the when I get to 1,000, I can spill the beans. When I get to $1,000 a month, I will start implementing GIS, and that's where you can get the topographical map. Yes. So there will be, yep. So the cool thing is, since this is real 3D, I can actually put it in QGIS or S3 or so whatever tool I will use to create. Then you can create topographical maps. Yes, with shading.
How many more do we need?
Well, you can get like the map a military map, like the ordnance.
No, I know, but how many more people do we need to sign up?
Not that many. It's $923 right now, so it's not that many. So that
people get on there, man.
Yeah. So then I can start getting So there will be, I can build it. So $1,000 will be a GIS implementation, because then I will start having the budget to get the tools to start using GIS. And 1,500 will be $1,500 a month. That will be printing. Because then after with GIS, I can start doing templates and stuff so people can print maps easily. And I will also get the money enough in my budget that I can do test prints and all that. So I can make sure that everything looks good and stuff, because it costs a lot of money to do prints. And if I have to spend $200-300 just testing it, then I can't manage to buy my health insurance if I do that. So that's the after 1,500, and then 2,000 will be really cool. But I'm not going to spill the beans on that one yet.
All right, save that. So come on, folks.
That's it. You're getting there. You know?
Yep. Well, yeah, I'm getting there. So it's cool. So yeah. But GIS is the tool to use to do real topographical maps, and maps in a lot of different styles very easily, because you can just you create a style sheet, and then you plug in whatever data you want, and then you can make it look like an elven butterfly map or an orcish war scribble or an ordnance survey map, so to speak, the same data. So yeah.
Cool.
Awesome.
Yep.
Tim, you got kind of an announcement, I think.
Yeah.
Yes,
hopefully.
I do. I've had a number of people express interest in it, and it's just, I already have the dark hand. The dark hand has now become the dark band almost.
Right.
So I've decided to bite the bullet and start a second barbarian group.
Yay!
So I have reached out to a few more people, so I may be reaching out to a neighborhood near you. I don't know. Have a second barbarian group, same tribe, same general area, same. It'll just be the different group.
And first level to start, right?
It'll be like the low level. It'll be, you see,
To the
the Dark
grunts.
Hand are like the beautiful people and the heroes that everybody loves. The second group's going to be, you might think of them as the war dogs, but just cross out war and put underdogs.
That's awesome. So note that it won't be any of the same players in the first group.
Right.
So let Tim do his thing. He has some people in mind, and I'll be producing it, and it may happen on a Saturday morning, every other month, or every 3 months, or whatever, and it'll be fun. So, no, Tim's not a level 0 guy at all. No.
Oh, I was thinking about doing something like that, but
well, it's up to him. It's up to Tim. It's Tim's game. I'm not going to say anything. I don't do anything. I just press buttons and set the stream up. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
So
that'll be first thing.
So note that
But
that's.
the games will be streamed?
Oh yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Hell yes. Hell yes.
I'm gonna leave that at that.
Yes.
I love talking about fighters. And I'm gonna sign off. I gotta roll.
Tim, thanks. Talk to you soon.
Good seeing you again, Tim.
All right, have a good night, man. See you. Happy Easter.
Bye.
All right. So, what's going on? Are you ready? Got some fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So this week we got 4 streams this week coming up. Thanks, Paraland. Hopefully you got your sound issues all resolved too, and you're good to go with your stream. And it was a good kickoff for yours. It's very good to see. So Wednesday night, Mountains and Highlands, Legends and Lore. We haven't done this yet. Mountain ranges, chains, all that.
Yeah, we've done forest. We've done a lot of different things. So now we attack the highlands.
So we're gonna go on this. We're gonna attack the highlands, the mountains. I'm gonna see if I can get Rich and or David to spill the beans on the low road that they're working on. So we'll get that going on this discussion, and it'll be a very basic Legends and Lore where we just go over the features and who's there and what's going on in those areas, and we just rotate which areas. It'll be a good discussion on Wednesday. So that's good.
Yeah, we can't have the top of the crop in the RPG industry and stuff every
no.
week. So,
Well, we will, but not right away. So
not every week. So,
yes. So we'll Thursday night we're going to finish up Meth and the Sealed Fates. One of the Windborn was captured, kidnapped by them. They're out in the middle of the Lort Mills at this old abandoned tower, and they're slaughtering dwarves, which I found a little. I was shocked, like when they paralyzed one, they killed them, and one surrendered, and they killed them, and I was like, oh my gosh, talking about alignment slips, but that's part of the game. I'll just get to that another day.
And it's the coolest adventure name you've had so far. it's like I said, it's awesome. It's like an acid, it's like a rock band from the 90s or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And every time they knock someone out or they took them or incapacitated, they say to you, your fate is sealed. That's kind of the name of the group, but we'll see. It's a post-joust adventure, and that's one of them. And then, so we have a Saturday night special coming up on Saturday, and this is going to be post-joust and starting Altamira as well, and that'll be adventure number 907, Investigations into the Sus. And this will lead. A couple weeks ago, I did Dangers Within the Sus, and they went in and Benian's brother, the necromancer, was trying to summon this power from the ancient soul power, and they messed it up. Well, apparently that group didn't clean up everything that they should have, and they missed some things, and now there's problems all in that area. And the Knights of Ulick are sending this crack force, which is Imri. So you got Time Lord's wife, you got Stella Luna, you got Mike Disney, you got Anna, you got Chuck Cumbo. I'm missing 2 people. You got Bill the Master Crafter. Who am I missing?
Tim, Will?
No, there's 7 players. Oh my gosh. I'm missing someone in my brain. Wow. Oh, Amy Crittenden.
Okay.
Amy.
Yeah.
Oh my
Amy's coming.
gosh.
Yes. Amy's
Yes.
coming.
Amy's
Yeah.
coming. And I said this, and this is okay. Big deal, right? This is the first time in 41 years I've ever DM'd for a majority female cast. Ever. It's kind of a big deal for me to have,
Yeah.
for that. So, shrubbery. So that'll be a fun one and it's also a stratagem giveaway. Reapers on Thursday, stratagem whiz dice is on Saturday. So we got a lot of giveaways coming up. This is a one-shotter. It's gonna be a tough one, but it'll be fun. Next Sunday, we continue with assistance, DM type assistance, Gabbin number 141. DM's tips on creating and enhancing magic items. So,
damn! I need to work on a spell book that is a minor artifact kind of cool spell book. So I will report on that one. Yeah, that's for my next session. So that makes sense. We'll be having that next Sunday. We'll be having the next session in my campaign. So yeah. So that's actually what I'm going to do tonight. I'm going to work on creating magical items. Yeah.
That is great because I love taking a +1 sword and turning it into something else.
Yep.
I love, like, I'll take a masterwork sword, which is, I love masterwork items. I love keen items. I love taking a +0 sword, which does +1 damage. It's still magical. I love doing all sorts of little tweaks, or giving magical spells. We'll talk about all that and how to do it. And I got my magic 8-ball up there, which is a magic item I created like 30 years ago or 25 years ago. So that's what we're going to talk about on this is unless one of the guests that we've reached out to from Gary Con says I can come next week.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Then that might be a change. Yeah.
Then there might be a change, but I don't think that's going to happen. But
if Roger E. Moore comes, then it will be a change.
Yes, or if Zeb Cook comes, or something like that, which we're working on.
Yep.
But then the week after the Gabbin, after Ed Greenwood makes his return 2 weeks from tonight. Okay.
Oh yes.
So Gabbin 142. 2 weeks from tonight. The Great Libraries of Greyhawk and Candlekeep. Now, I took some heat from Eric in the chat a little bit by not saying Candlekeep and the Great Libraries of Greyhawk, but it's a Greyhawk-centric stream. So I said, I apologize, but I have to think of our viewers first.
But that's a very interesting topic. Libraries, that's,
Yes. I'm working on it, Ultra. I'm working on a lot. We're working on a ton of guests, all post-GaryCon. So I have Ed Greenwood coming on for the second time, and Tony Winslow Brill, who wrote an adventure in Candlekeep, and Eric Mengi, along with Anna. And that'll be a great discussion. And we're going to talk about, places of lore, knowledge, spell places, colleges, all sorts of things like that. So, thank you for doing that for Ultra Clever Clover. I really appreciate it for that gift sub. So we're looking forward to this discussion, and this is the furthest out I've gotten on the schedule. Is this, and we are going to have a really fun one here, and they've confirmed that's 100% in. All guests have confirmed, so that's 2 weeks from tonight. We have that, but we have a lot of other stuff in the works. Trust me, Tim told us one. So you're going to see, I don't know, every 2 to 3 months, you're going to see Tim DMing a Saturday special. It'll probably be a morning game over an evening game, which is kind of cool. So we'll have another stream added to the repertoire every so often with Tim DMing that low-level barbarian group. We're going to just keep on. Like I said, it's a steady climb, right? Steady climb up for all of us. I'm reaching out to some other streamers, and it's good to see some new ones like Parentland Adventures just started. That's Ket Onwall, correct? Sean, that's you. And then I was told Orenir said he's starting soon from Belgium. He's starting, so there's another one. And then there may be one or two others. I love the smell of Arc Blood in the morning. Same here. Same here. So let's do the giveaway for this CSL Entertainment $25 gift certificate. See who wins this today. All right, and this is an easy giveaway. I text it to you. Done. So fun night. Hopefully you got some. And I didn't completely confuse all of you on the fighter.
Well, that I didn't. That was my part to play.
Okay.
Confuse everybody. You were trying to make sense of everything, and then I kind of came in and messed
Oh,
up.
it's all good. It's good.
Yeah.
You get a different perspective on different classes.
Yeah.
4 a.m. No, I'm not getting up, Prometheus, at 4 o'clock in the morning to produce anything on a weekend. I don't have to.
I hope not, because
No.
that means that I have to get up at what is like 1 a.m.
Oh, one other thing. Scott Casper is going to have a little mini con thing.
I saw a message of that. Just
Yeah,
before we started
for his
here.
50th
Yeah.
birthday, and I said I'd participate in that. That's like the third weekend in
Yeah,
May.
I'm
I'll
going
do
to say
something for
yes that I will
Yeah.
participate
Just
in that.
note
too. I
that
can't
Scott's a
resist that.
really great
Yep.
guy and a
Oh yeah,
contributor
fantastic.
to community.
Yep.
So, all right, here we go. We ready? I'm closing this out. Who will win this? Who will win? Who will win? Who will win? Von Moku. There you go. The joust winner. You got it,
Yay.
Von Moku. Grats, Michael.
Awesome.
I will immediately send this over to you. Just give me a couple minutes here. All right. And please stay on. We're gonna do a J random raid into someone who could use some help tonight, and I picked one because only reason I like the name of the stream. Just like I like Time Lord's wife, and that's how I met Kayla. See, sometimes good things happen when you do stuff like that. And look where Kayla's come along. I think they're called Tilted Butler. All right, so let's raid into Tilted Butler tonight. And thanks for everything. Thank you all for such a great show and such wonderful viewership tonight. Let's keep the faith, keep it going. Stay involved in the community. Stay involved in Cannon Fire, Greyhawk Online. Here, let me click on these. Remember, Greyhawk Online, you got to go through the website to get on their Discord if you haven't already. Just stay involved and participate however you can. And thank you so very much. Happy Easter to all of you. And Jay hopefully hits the right button. Please sit tight as we raid into them.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, if we can raid into them, and I think they may have 10 viewers on. If we can raid into them, that would be awesome. And they'll be like, what? So let me see, raid. Yeah. Typing it in. Tilted Butler, I think is the name of it. There we go. Oh, she's got 8 viewers. All right, so let's. I know nothing about the stream, but I said let's do it.
Yep.
Do a random raid.
You've done it before and it turned out good. So, yeah.
65, 66, 66, 5, 4. That's awesome. 3, 2, 1. We'll see you Wednesday night.
Bye.
Turn this off.